evening, Tottenham fans, and happy Tuesday night to you all. Hopefully you all enjoyed the nice long weekend. If you did get up to anything exciting or have any divine cuisine over the long weekend, please put it in the chat and let us know how you spent this bank holiday weekend. But we are back here for the Tottenham fan show this week, one day behind than usual because your boy was busy spending a bit of time with the missus yesterday. So hopefully you can forgive me, but we are back in the saddle getting ready for the start of the new Premier League season. And there seems to be a lot about DOMINIC SOLANKE. It does look like he could be the target, the striker target that is going to come in the door. And what we want to know off you guys tonight is, which says it in the title really, would you be happy with DOMINIC SOLANKE at Tottenham Hotspur? Also, just saying, seems to be a bit of Pedro Neto content creeping about. Do people know something that we don't? Could that be another signing that's close to happening? Well, we'll read between the lines there. Maybe it could be. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts on that. We'll obviously talk to people a little bit about Neto as well if they want to talk. We also want to know from what we've seen from that Bayern Munich game and over the course of pre-season, what do Tottenham Hotspur need to work on heading into the new season to help propel us to what us fans want, which is a title challenge, which is also what Postecoglou wants as well. Mikey Moore signed a new 3-year, or is due to sign a 3-year extension to his contract on Sunday when he turned 17. Let us know if you think Tottenham have done great business fending off a lot of interest that's been in him to get him tied down. There was reports about Feliz going to Southampton. It's since come out that there is no truth to them rumours whatsoever, so that one can die down a little bit. And also, apparently today there was a decision made. No tifo for the North London Derby, which I think is absolutely disgraceful. No tifo in the South Stand. And I believe it's probably down to they don't want people making aeroplanes out of the paper after and trying to get them across to Arsenal fans and stuff. However, on one of these, it's our stadium. We should look to make it as intimidating as possible, not be nice guys and stuff like that. So we will be asking every single guest tonight when the last question tonight is their thoughts on that decision. Make sure I haven't missed anything. Also, lastly, guys, maybe interesting, maybe making something out of nothing here, but why have the club not backed Postecoglou this window? Could it be that they have a little bit of concern about the lack of results towards the end of the season, or maybe from the injuries onwards, and that maybe they're having their doubts and maybe pulling the reins a little bit on Ange heading into this season? So I think there is plenty to talk about. We'll ask how Jacko is, and then I just want to say a quick message. Jacko, how are you, my man?
No exquisite cuisine for me over the weekend, Dave. Kept it pretty simple, sadly. But maybe I'll update you when I do eventually have some wonderful cuisine over here. I'm actually looking forward to having some smoked salmon at some point now that I'm back in Seattle. I'm not sure if that's your game, though. Yeah, it's a little too fishy for you, but maybe some people in the chat might enjoy it. Loving the idea of having two Pedros on the team, a Pedro Neto and a Pedro Porro. Can't go wrong with too many Pedros, I think, in a Tottenham Hotspur squad. And then the big Dom looks like he could be headed his way to Spurs. Like with Richarlison, it just seems like I'm going to be one of his biggest defenders, and we'll have to continue to make extra work of defending him. And my last point is that it's nice that you and I, Dave, we actually have plenty of things that we can talk about and plenty of things that the people on the fan show tonight can talk about. We had to scrape the barrel for a couple of weeks at one point this summer, and now we no longer have to do so. Almost too much to talk about.
Yeah, hopefully a lot to talk about over the next week as well in terms of transfers. You know, I think many Spurs fans are getting very concerned now about the lack of progress made in this window. So hopefully a few more signings to come. Now, just a couple of quick things for you guys. First of all, we understand tensions are high, but at the end of the day, we're a channel where we like to, everyone, I think, deserves an opinion. You know, you're entitled to your opinion, no problem at all. The only thing we ask is that in the chat, it is kept respectful amongst each other. One thing we are trying to create here is a community that respects one another. You can all have difference of opinions, no problem. But at the end of the day, we're all human beings, so we don't need to be digging people out, calling each other names, etc. Because at the end of the day, let's be brutally honest, right? We all have things going on outside of YouTube. You could say something to someone, you don't know how they're going to take that. You don't know what's going on in their life. So let's not add any more misery to life. It's already hard enough as is. Let's try and respect each other. That's the community we're trying to create here. I'll give everybody a one-strike policy. Once I see it again on the second time, unfortunately, I'm going to have to time you out. And if it's really bad, I'll block you. It is getting to that point where it has to be done because it's starting to take the piss a little bit. So hopefully everyone can respect that. Second of all, if you are a channel member, if you do have a fan show membership or an elite membership, just head to the community section on the channel right now. The link there for the fan show is there. Make sure you click on it and come in. And lastly, if you do enjoy all of the content that we produce for you guys, feel free to grab a channel membership. Or if you think there's things we're not talking about that you think we should, feel free to drop in a super chat. Great way to support the channel, and we'll make sure it all gets answered. And then lastly, probably something I actually should have done first, probably rude of me, but I'm going to welcome all of you guys in. Let's see who we've got in the chat with us this evening. Go back to the very top. Geez, you guys are eager beavers this evening. We've got Stevie Fraser. I'll concede he may well do well in our system. I may be proved wrong, but his record in the Prem is 19, 6-3-0. Is this the world beater? We were promised to replace Harry, and he's not even cheap. Look, everyone knows my feelings on it. And look, me and Jack are a little bit different on Solanke. Jack maybe sees the reason why Tottenham are going after him. Me, personally, I find it very underwhelming. I think it's a huge risk. I think we've got some average enough players in there, or what they produce is average enough. Johnson, Werner, and Richarlison. I think potentially we're adding to that. I think someone like Ivan Toney is a much more safe bet. But by the way, that's a video that me and Jack are dropping tomorrow morning. Stay tuned for that, Stevie Fraser. But look, I tried to warn everybody when the talk about Harry Kane was there that, do you back this club to replace him adequately? So far, we've brought in Maddison and Johnson and a Timo Werner on loan to try and recreate the goals, and it just has not worked. Are they about to make the same mistake? Are they going to learn from their lessons, Stevie? Let's wait and see, my man. But big yourself up, brother. Good to see you in the house. Got Tequila 316. No, I don't want Dirty Dom at Spurs. What a letdown if this happens. Fair enough, Tequila. You got Gamer 16. If we sell Richie for 60 million, we'll just go and get Osimhen from Napoli. Bit more expensive than Solanke, but not much. Look, what I will say is I did probably, at the start of tomorrow's video coming out, address why we are in the homegrown market. I think this is something that is ignored, and it really does reduce a lot of the market that we can shop in by 90%, and probably hence why we're dragging our heels in this market and haven't even done anything from Europe at this moment in time, because the homegrown side does have to be improved upon. I think that's something we maybe have to shake hands with, whether you like it or not. Oh, lastly, actually, sorry, Damacho did say actually that it just not too long ago that they reckon the Emerson Royale deal to AC Milan could be tied up in the next few hours, so we'll keep an eye on that. And also, we'll have to give Jack 5 minutes to grieve, as well on that one. And then we've got Moondog. Says, definitely not another. I'm sick of second-rate transfers. I mean, Jack, what would you say to Moondog? Because, look, I agree with him. I think it is a bit of a second-rate, to be brutally honest. But you do see the good in Solanke. What would you say to Moondog?
I see the good in Solanke, but I think I'd rather try to, put into context maybe what Moondog means by that. I think what he probably means is there have been rumored kind of priority targets that Spurs had in the beginning of this window. Of course, we only know so much about what their priorities were, but we were told that Eze was certainly one of them. And we were told that guys like Ivan Toney, as well as some other strikers, were kind of some of the main targets for Spurs this window. Again, that's only hearsay. That's only what Dave and I have kind of seen in the papers, seen in kind of rumors, ITKs, that type of thing. But it feels like, at this point in time, Spurs have really taken their time on these transfers, and perhaps they're kind of going for their second, third, fourth options and what they had in terms of their list of players that they were looking to bring in certain positions. And that would then qualify to a degree as second-rate transfer, guys that aren't really your priority targets. So I think that's what Moondog means by that. And by what we saw from this whole window, there is some truth to that. Because guys like Eze and others were supposedly the priority targets.
And the thing is, Tottenham, even the Neto one, if that happens, you can't say Tottenham have gone off course on that, because they were linked with Neto for the last 2 years. But someone like Solanke does seem like we've maybe veered a little bit off course. We have been linked with Ivan Toney in the past. It feels like we've gone to Brentford. We don't like the price. So now we've sort of maybe pivoted a little. And I sort of do agree with that, if that's what you mean by the second-rate transfer. But also, look, for me, I think it's a big gamble. I think he's, last season was his first good season. He might prove me wrong, and I might stand corrected, but I think it's fair to say that he's more leaning on the side of a one-season wonder rather than someone that can produce it season in, season out. Like I said, I just worry, are we adding to the problem? One thing we should have learned is you can't just get any Joe Soap and put him in the forward line and hope he's going to make a difference. You have to bring in genuine quality and players that are genuinely going to suit everything that you need. But look, at the end of the day, Solanke might prove us all wrong. Let's wait and see. But that's my opinion on it. Big up Moondog Dog. Good to see you. Hopefully you and Charlie are ready for the new season as well, my man. We got Mark Solanke has 29 goals, 134 Premier League appearances. Would any of the top 6 side want him? Well, I mean, I think there's a reason why we're the only one in for him, right? And it says, this is why we never win nothing. Kane money, game-changing stadium, and we still act like a mid-table side. Hard to argue with that. Big up Killian Kenny says, big up crew. I will have Rangers game on my phone. I'm watching Olympics. Team Ireland is on tonight. Boxing from Paris. Then a kip. Well, enjoy yourself. The Olympics hasn't actually been too bad of a watch in terms of the sports and stuff like that, to be fair. We've got Eddie in the house. Big up, Eddie. Great to see you, my man. We've got Phil Coy's evening, lad. Solanke and Neto. I was underwhelmed at first, but I think Solanke could do a very good job for us. Very good at the press. I like his attributes. Neto's quality outweighs the injury risk. Interesting, because I think it's been worked out, the ratio 50% over his 5 years he's been available for Wolves or something like that. Or the game's over, like how long he's been there. It's absolutely madness. But then again, some people could argue, you're taking that risk with Eze, right? He also carries a lot of injuries and stuff like that. One thing I would say is, with them smaller clubs, they don't really give their players as much chance to get back, especially their best ones, because of how reliant they are on them just to pick up points. So, maybe at Tottenham, the hope is we can give them a little bit longer to recover. But then again, we have an awful injury record as well. So you just adding to that problem, giving the doctors more work. Big up, Tyler. Great to see you. Come on, you Spurs. Please spend some money on some top players, Levy. Well, I think Tyler sums up everybody's thoughts right now for sure. King Hoddle, great to see you, my man. He says, either not Solanke or Tony, I'm happy with either. I like Solanke pressing, his movement, his work ethic, and Irilo's coaching has arguably improved them as well. He will fit in to the way we play. And we also have Spurs GCTV. Evening, lads. Come on, you Spurs. Great to see you. Just do a quick fire. Keep going through them. Welcome people in, and then we'll crack on. Big up Gaza. He doesn't want Solanke at all. Good to see Sav in the house. Says Neto, I played 50 of the last 114 games available. This is Spursy. So Sav is not happy on the Neto signing whatsoever. And by the way, congrats on the 13K, my man. Very well deserved. We've got Brooklyn Evans. Solanke to Tottenham would be a great signing. Good to see you in the house. Neil G, we knocked down White Hart Lane and built the best stadium in Europe and told it would be a game changer. Sold our record goal scorer and replaced him with some Brazilian flop, and then not after Bournemouth. And now we're after Bournemouth's number 9. Look, I do hear what you're saying there. One thing I do want to say is, I don't feel like the fan base should throw the Harry Kane thing at the club, because 99% of the fans were okay with Tottenham cashing in on him. So I think that's very unfair if you were okay to say, yeah, Tottenham should take that money in case he walks away for free. I don't think then you should use it to sort of berate the club with, because at the end of the day, everyone knows the track record of the club not signing top players. So anyone that was calling for him to be sold for the cash should have known or expected we weren't going to replace him with another elite striker coming in the door. So I do feel, for being fair, I do feel that's a bit harsh. But, if you think I'm wrong there, come on, have your say. Tell me why, no problem at all. Big up Davey Hall, great to see you even in all. Big up whole crew. Why are we looking at these players with wings who can't cross well or find their man? We've got Georgie Hill. Great to see you as always. Even the lads, hope all is well. Solanke is a donkey, but he's a pacey donkey, that I rate. So I wouldn't be upset seeing him in Lily White. It takes a rat to know a rat, which is why Arteta dislikes Tony. Enough. We've got RST. It would be a poor signing, in my opinion. It screams of a club signing and not an Ange one. When it comes to Ange Postecoglou signings, I think there has to be a degree of sort of understanding that Postecoglou will tell the club what positions he wants and what players he prefers. But at the end of the day, the scouting model will be the ones determined. Like they'll put so many players forward, and Ange will probably give his preference on that. But it doesn't mean he's going to get his first preference. If anyone's watched any of the behind the scenes on football clubs nowadays, that seems to be the way it operates. So look, let's wait and see. One thing I know is for sure is they're not fully backing him right now, and we need to know why. Artist, he definitely agree there. The Fresher, great to see you. As always, Ian Ferguson, great to see you, my man. Martin Walton's in the house. Great to see you as well. He says that Emerson will be moving. It does look like he's on his way. RST also follows up there. Do you know what gets me? We heard all this talk about us taking advantage of this window because of PSR and FFP, and yet we've done nothing. Yeah, that's why I was angry. We only walked away with Gray. from the PSR situation, which sort of pissed me off to a large degree, to be honest, Artist T. I know there's a much better market we could have shopped in for sure. Just welcome a few more in. I'm so far behind, and then I may skip to the bottom. Martin Walton, great to see you. I've already said hi to you. My man, he says, this will pay for the new hotel. That'll pay for the new hotel Spar. K32, great to see you. Hello all. I'll take Solanke, but he is a risk. I feel we missed a trick. Losing out on Xavi Simons. He went on loan to RB Leipzig. He would have been a good buy for us. Big up K32. Spurs, Jiri, always going to sign second finished products. Why can't we move to get the good one with what similar amount of money? That's our mentality. So we never, ever going to win anything. Fair enough. That is fair. Drew Zilla, big up Jack and Dave. Great to see you, Drew. Back in England, of course. Hopefully you're keeping well and the family's keeping well. We also have Luper Kyle. Great to see you in the house as well. Make sure I'm not missing anyone. Finn Rickwood, always great to see you. KPV, always great to see you, my man. We also got SH Spurs 1, great to see you. Good evening, Jeff Brown, great to see you. He says, no. You get my point. He definitely doesn't want him. Who else have we got here? We've got Roundtable Talk. Good to see you. All the worst players in Solanke, and now all of a sudden he isn't good enough. Look, I think Tony's better than Solanke, to be brutally honest with you, all around. Big up PH family, good to see you. Make sure I'm not missing anyone. Destiny, great to see you, along with Eugene as well. As always, guys, if I do miss anyone, I do apologize, but I'm so far behind. I'm just going to have to skip to the bottom of the chat so that we can crack on with this fan show. So let's get it underway. Let's start. The first guest we have in the back end, I'll tell you, we've got coming up. We've got Dermot, Eddie. We've also got Shawnee Maddox, we've got Michael, we've got Daniel Larson as well in there as well, guys. So we have a lot of people in the back end there. And then whoever, Vinicius, I think that's KPV, the Vinicius Jr. one. He's a different name every time he comes in. And also big up Mr. Harris as well. That's not me, but good to see you in the house. But look, let's crack on. Where's Dermotron? Let's get him on. Good evening, Dermot. How are you keeping, my man?
Yeah, not too bad, lads. A little worried, I have to say, on the transfer market. I'm getting a bit nervous now. It's getting a bit squeaky bomb time, and we haven't done anything. And I think it's the same story again. I think it's the same old story. I can come on here and be as positive as like, Ange's going to get his signings. I've got my sources that are telling me stuff is happening. You could also use the excuse that some of the other clubs, the transfer market as a whole, it's not as busy as it normally would be. Clubs haven't got the money, but hang on a minute. We're supposed to have money. We're supposed to have FFP Kings. We're supposed to spend up to 400 million within the FFP. And again, it's the same old. And even for me, who's not a Levy out, who's down the middle, even I'm getting sick of this. Even I'm getting frustrated and fed up with this now. And Solanke is like the last. It's just, it's the straw that broke the camel's back for me. If we go for Solanke instead of Tony or Gimenez, that's me. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I'm absolutely done then.
What is it about Solanke that you dislike so much, Dermotron?
He's not. His best season, 6 goals. He only had one good season. Are we buying players on one good season now? Is this what we do? We see a player have a great season. Oh, we'll get him. He's going to be wonderful. It's not. We should be going after players like Gimenez that have, or Tony, that have again and again proven they can score goals. That's their job. Solanke work rate is great. I agree with, I think it was King Hoddle that said that. His work rate is great. Everything about him does fit in that system. But look, having Solanke is great, but that's not going to get you 25, 30 goals a season. And that's what we need. We need a 25 goal a season striker.
Well, you could make an argument that Postecoglou has come in here. He's made better players, and he's also helped integrate a lot of our new signings to hit the ground running, which maybe Tottenham haven't done in years gone by. Is there a possibility, or do you believe Ange Postecoglou can maybe work a bit of his magic on Solanke, or do you truly believe he is just a one-season wonder?
Who knows what Ange can do with them? Can I just say, I'm not blaming Ange on this. I'm not Ange out. This is all on the board. And the board can bring up anyone. Ange can do anything with any player. We've seen what he's done with certain players that we've brought in. We've now got a back five that could That's pretty decent. We've got midfielders that are pretty decent. With just the front three. Look, I'm going to still back Johnson because I still think he can come good. And we need to give him a chat. I still think he will come good. So I'm not going to back down from that. But I do feel the board are failing Ange, when it comes to backing players. And they haven't backed them.
Why do you think that is then, Dermot? You know, could it be that they weren't impressed with what they seen on the back end of the campaign last season, and that maybe they don't also have that initial sort of belief or trust? Because, you know, there is arguments to say that, you know, well, not arguments, but you do hear a lot of people saying, look, he'll be gone by Christmas, you know? So why do you think the board have maybe reined it in a little? Or could it just be as simple as, like I've explained, they have to buy homegrown players and it's slowing down the market?
They have to buy homegrown players because they have to shift the foreign players. And people seem to remember the European transfer market. All the clubs in Europe haven't got a lot of money. And we're asking for top dollar for players. That should really go for it. We should be getting anything, getting them out the door, open up the spaces so we can get in these European type places.
In fairness, I think they've actually done a good job of that this year.
They have
got a lot of them out.
Yeah, they've got the deadwood out, which is no other manager's done that apart from Ange. And I'm not one of these Anges can be out for Christmas. I think that's just ridiculous talk. Do you know, you all scream that we want a manager to play the Tottenham way. Well, we played the Tottenham way. Now you want them out by Christmas. It's all Ange's fault. Every manager that's got a Tottenham cannot all be their fault. We can blame the players. We can blame certain managers, like we can blame Mourinho, we can blame Conte. But we can't, everyone cannot just keep blaming managers after managers after managers after managers. The players have to take responsibility. The board have to take responsibility. The transfer board, which is a lot better than what it was. Don't get me wrong, we've really improved on that. But things still can be done better. And instead of footing around, we're supposed to have all this money. Just go and buy Tony, for Christ's sake. Put Reguilon. I'm sure Brentford would love Reguilon. If he's not going to play, put Reguilon within the deal. But we can keep doing this because at the end of the day, it's Ange that's being shortchanged at the end of the day. And that's how I feel very angry about it. And I normally don't, but I don't know why I feel like this tonight, but I just do. I just feel it's the same old story again.
Yeah, no, look, I think it's justified. I think many Spurs fans are angry. Look, you know, even the most internal optimist, I don't think would be, you know, sat there and said, you know, 2 weeks out from the season, you know, that Tottenham wouldn't have, you know, some of their priority signings in right now. I think it's definitely 100% justified. Look, I echo your message. Like, you know, Ange Postecoglou has done what he can in terms of transfers. You know, he had the meeting before last season even ended. He told them what he wanted, what positions he wanted, the priorities. It's not his fault. The transfer committee or the club haven't got them in here yet. You know, he can't pick up the phone and ring the clubs and make these deals happen. He's got more important things to do right now, you know. Plus, it's not his job. It's not what he's employed to do. So I think many people, you know, echo them frustrations, Dermot. What about Pedro Neto then? Does look like, you know, he's probably going to come in maybe, you know, before the window ends, Dermot. What's your thoughts on Pedro Neto? He could come in here and displace your boy Johnson, by the way, as well, who's been absolutely shocking pre-season.
I don't think he's been that bad, Dave. You and me will disagree on that. I don't think he's been that bad. He hasn't been brilliant, but he's shown when he has played well, he has got into places where Werner should be getting into, by the way. Got himself a couple of goals. So I think he could do better, but he hasn't done as bad as you may think. And look, if Neto does come in, I think that'd be a good signing. But why is it taking us to the end of the window? Why can't I be like other clubs, get everything done early? Everything done before pre-season starts. Get all your ducks, your eggs in order. Then get it done. Look, I think the window's too long anyway. I think the window should be shortened. Personally, in my opinion. Or there shouldn't be a window at all. What was wrong with the good old days when you could buy a player during the season? I think windows put more pressure on the clubs to do business. It puts more pressure on the fans because their expectations go up sky high because they want it all done early. And I think we've made a sort of rod for our own back by getting players like Neto and leaving it to the last day of the window. Why can we not get all our ducks in order? Do you know, I'm trying to get the right phrase. I know it's coming out wrong, but get them all in order and get the players we want and go for it and get it done early.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to get Neto in, get him in early.
Yeah.
If we're going to get Tony in, get him in early. Get it all done.
Maybe in the case of Neto, there could be a slight excuse because he actually was in the Euros. But in the case of Solanke, it's probably less of an excuse, if not no excuse at all, because he didn't participate in any international competition over the summer. So why would they have taken so long then, I guess?
I don't know. It's just frustration. It's now becoming frustration. We should be. We keep saying we're a big club. Well, let's act like one.
Well, Dermotron, how would you like to see Spurs in some way act like a big club with whatever time we have left in the window? What would be an example?
I think going out, get players like Gimenez, get players like that in. Do you know,
Gimenez is worse than Solanke.
I think Gimenez is better than Solanke. Solanke's a one-season wonder. How do we know he's going to come into Tottenham and do well?
Yeah,
you don't.
No, I agree.
Do you know what we need to go get the Juventus lad? What's his name?
Vlahovic.
Yeah, go and get him. Get Ketier as well for Juventus. He's not wanted. He's good in the wing. Get players like that in. Apparently we've got this money to spend. Spend it. What's the point of keeping it in the bank? What's it doing? Gaining interest. I just think we need to pull a finger out of our ass. And look, we've got one good thing to come out of this pre-season. It's the youngsters. And I think that's great having them, but we need players as well. We need a striker. We've been crying out for a striker. Look, we sold Harry Kane, the rights and wrongs of it. And we did spend some of the money on Vicario, Van der Ven, and players like that. Great. But we desperately need a striker. We need a number 6 and we need a number 10 to put pressure on Madison. And if we can get that, then I think we'll have a really good season. If we don't, I'm deluded. You know I am. I'm not usually like this, but I think we're going to struggle this season. I think we'll struggle to get top 4. If we don't get the players we need to get them in now, because we cannot keep waiting and waiting and waiting. It's ridiculous.
No, 100%.
Ange's going to get sick of it, and Ange's going to say, do you know what? I don't need this stress. He's done it in Australia. He's done it at other clubs as well. When he feels he's been taking a piss out of, he's going to walk off. And then
you share different views on that. I don't think Ange is a quitter. I don't think he will walk. I think he is one that works, or tries to understand the business side of the football and tries to work within that them parameters. I think that's half of the reason why he got the job. To be brutally honest. But Dermot, last question for you, my man, and then we do have to move on because it's going to be a busy one tonight. Tottenham's decision to turn down a TIFO for the North London Derby. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? I find it absolutely appalling and shocking, to be brutally honest.
I do too. I do. I think it's absolutely dreadful. That's the North London Derby is probably one of the biggest games of the season for Tottenham fans. So why can't we not use that to our advantage? They use it at their ground for their advantage. Of course they will. So let's use it. I think it's dreadful decision. But look, what can you do? All we can do is do it ourselves. But what can you do? That's the club again. Just
they're afraid of a few paper airplanes. I mean, it's absolutely madness, Dermot. It's absolute madness. But look, why do people need to get across the THFC till I die, lad?
Well, if you like what I have to say, a few in the chat don't like what I have to say, and I really don't give a shit. I don't care what you say.
We're trying to build a nice, respectful community here. Be nice.
Yeah, I know that. Sorry, but if you don't know what to say, you don't have to agree with me. So, just to come over to THFC, we've got Tequila, we've got Philip Brady, we have also Colin over there. We talk everything Tottenham. We've got the new channel starting up as well, everything to do with European football, League of Ireland, all the other stuff as well. And also got a gaming channel I do as well with Colin. So, so get over to THFC. We're on our way to 2K. And big up, Sava. But get over to 2K, and I'd like to get there before the start of the season. But thank you very much for having me on. And everyone respect one another. It is a tough word out there. And Davey is right. There is a lot of people. You don't know what's going on in their personal lives. we do need to respect one another. We do need to be kind to one another. We're all Spurs fans at the end of the day. We all support the same team. So let's get behind the team instead of fighting with each other, because what's that going to achieve? Nothing.
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
Like, that's the thing, you know. I can have one opinion on, I cannot like Solanke. Someone can like Solanke, you know, but it doesn't mean we have to call each other names and rip each other down, for sure, Dermot.
No,
Dermot,
we don't.
Thank you very much for getting us kicked off this evening, my man.
No,
I'm going to speak again soon.
Yeah. Big up.
Nice work, Dermotron. See you
Have a
soon,
good
sir.
evening. Come on, you Spurs. See you soon, my man. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Everybody, please get over and check out Dermot's channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We got a few super chats here. We'll get these. Firstly, K32 says, bring back Gary Doherty. I mean, he's a Postecoglou dream. So versatile. Centre-back and striker. The Ginger Pele, my man. Them days. Absolute madness. Big up, K32. We got Football Heritage TV, says Dave. I don't even think it matters who we sign up top or out wide. If he keeps playing his kamikaze football, we will concede so many that we will be nowhere near the top 3 again. Sorry, not sorry. Look, I do understand people's concerns, and you know, it's something that, look, you know, I don't agree with all of your criticisms of Postecoglou, but one thing I will concede on is, you know, we do need to shore it up a little bit and not be so vulnerable to the counterattack. You know, we've seen it against Hearts. They opened us up quite easily, and then against Bayern Munich the other day, I mean, it was just so easy. Now, Postecoglou has said since then it's because of the tiredness and stuff like that, but we're still going to be hit on the counter like we were last season unless we shore it up. And it does look like so far that Postecoglou is not going to make a tactical tweak to be able to make that happen, which means then it's on the board to go out and get a world-class CDM. But it doesn't look like they're going to do that either, because we signed Archie Gray. So now it does look like that Postecoglou might have to make an adaptation or a tactical tweak to make this happen. I'd also argue if he keeps playing Brennan Johnson somewhere along the line, I think it's going to cost him his job as well, because, you know, for some reason he just keeps putting him out there and won't drop him and stuff like that. But in a whole, I actually think the way Postecoglou plays is what many people asked for when they were asking for Antonio Conte to be sacked. You know, someone that plays the Tottenham way, check. Someone that plays on the front foot football, check. Someone that worries about us more than the opposition, check. And look, the counter-attack and being more exposed was the trade-off people were always going to have to make when you go from defensive football to attacking football. Look, I'm still behind Andrew. I think Andrew's a very good manager, but I think with what we've currently got, I think last season is the best he's going to get out of it. You know, if you're going on judging by how second seasons have gone under previous managers, and that's why I think we need more signings to be able to help him take this on forward. But that's where I'm at. Sava, Jack, anything you want to say?
I'll just quickly add to Sava's case, maybe to support him in some sort of sense. I'm not going to make any bold conclusions about what's going to happen with Ange Postecoglou or whether it work out or not, but probably the least Spurs fan trait about me is that I actually am a bit more of a fan of more conservative defensive type of tactics. You know, I'm a big Sean Dyche enthusiast. I'm a big fan of Gary O'Neill. I do like kind of the prime eras of Jose, Conte, as well as the Simeone. Like, I do like defensive football. I'd actually prefer not to concede instead of scoring 4, 5, 6. It's just how I kind of preferred the game. But that being said, I've had to almost rewire my brain, or I've had to kind of accept, you know, this, you know, brand of football that I agree with Dave. I think we all, to a degree, we're kind of promoting. We wanted to see more Harry Redknapp sort of tactics of, you know, kind of just going for it, you know, not really caring about what the opposition is putting out in front of us, play our style, play our game, and don't be as concerned with how the opposition is going to play. And it's not necessarily how I see football through my lens of, you know, the game, but it is something I've gotten used to under Ange Postecoglou, and I've kind of become a fan of it to a degree. Would I still take defensive football? Absolutely, yes. But I think we are in this period where I am willing to concede that, you know, we wanted something that was slightly different to what we had before, and I'm willing to bite my tongue about it.
I think what we could take from that is Jack loves the extremes of football, either ultra defensive or ultra attacking. He doesn't like anything in between. Look, maybe this isn't exactly what fans asked for, so attacking, maybe. But at the end of the day, look, it's what the board brought in here. And I think it's just down to whether you see himself being able to motivate these players to go again underneath him, you know, get them to buy into this system even more than what they have and stuff like that. I do think there's a lot of good things that we neglect that Postecoglou has done. I think he's calmed down the fan base to a large degree. You know, I think he's proved people wrong to a large degree. From what they were expecting when he first walked in here to where he finished last season, I think is a plus. I think he integrates new signings a lot quicker than what I've seen managers do in the past. You know, it does look like that some of these younger players are going to come through, which I think is a huge bonus. Look, let's wait and see what happens. You know, I think the game, look, personally, I've said all preseason, there's stuff you can take away. And I do think the one against Bayern Munich was concerning. I thought they were a lot more aggressive than us and stuff like that. But look, let's wait and see what happens at the end of the day. I would argue sacking a manager now, just 2 weeks out from the season, is not the right move. So I think whether people like him or not, I think he is going to be here. But look, I do understand it. Look, not everybody is convinced by Postecoglou, and neither do they have to be. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But you know what, Sava? Big up, my man, and really appreciate the support. Thank you very much. I'll have a look through the comments to see what you're saying in response to me now in a second, my man. Big up, Sava. Got Paul Markey. Big up, Paul. Hopefully you're keeping well as well, sir. Says Solanke, not the standard required, period. He won't have anyone else say any different. But more annoying is United's deal for Ugarte is collapsing and Lange is still sitting with his thumb up his ass on this when it's so obvious who we need. Jack, you know, this Ugarte is a name that's been touted around for some time, even before he made that move to PSG from Sporting. Many people were saying, get this guy, he's the next thing. Do you see Tottenham going for a CDM? Because it is something that whole fan base, you know, saying we need this summer. But when you look at a lot of the links this summer, even to midfielders, Conor Gallagher, Ramsey, players like that, they're not CDMs. So do you think this is even on the priority list for Tottenham this summer?
If Spurs or if Ange Postecoglou truly wanted someone like Conor Gallagher, who is this box-to-box kind of energetic presence, who can get up and down, win a tackle, and maybe even pop in late to score a goal, but isn't exactly, I think, maybe the most technically skilled on the ball in every situation and can be a bit of a sideways passer. I think Ugarte has all of that, but then is less of a sideways passer, is less of kind of a horseshoe type of style. I think he's a much, much better version of what you would get with a Conor Gallagher, but you would still get a lot of the same traits of him working really hard, getting up and down, just being an energetic, hard-nosed type of midfielder. And if Ange really wanted someone like Conor Gallagher, then I wouldn't see why he wouldn't like someone like Emmanuel Ugarte. It just seems to be the case that the Spurs scouting team don't think it's possible or don't think that he is really someone that Ange might want. But I'm a bit confused by that because I would think that he's very, very similar to a Conor Gallagher. It's hard to say though, right, Paul? There's so many players in the world. There's so many players to choose from. And it just seems like the Spurs scouting team just have not looked at Ugarte as a realistic or as a viable option. I think there are plenty of reasons to be frustrated by that or to feel like they should, but just seems like their attention has not been on him for some reason.
Let me also ask you a follow-up question for Paul Markey, Jack, because I have a feeling when they signed Archie Gray, that sort of eliminated our hopes of signing any sort of number 6. And it does seem like the messaging coming out from the club, Postecoglou has said it, you know, that there's a plan. They're not going to deviate from the plan. But does that mean they shouldn't be open to opportunities as such, like an Ugarte, if it arrives on the market?
Well, this is something that maybe would have been more in line with a Paratici, right? Someone who would look at maybe an opportunity or see that there's a situation to take advantage of a club or take advantage of a player's contract situation. I'm not too sure how Johan Lange works, Paul Markey, and plenty of people are already getting very frustrated by the Johan Lange kind of era. And I think we'll have to wait and see what his style is. You know, is he a guy that just stays really fixed on the priorities of players that he has scheduled ahead of, you know, the window? Is he a guy that's going to react to maybe the changing moods and the changing waves of how the window unfolds? I guess we'll find out. But from what we've seen is that maybe he isn't that sort of guy to take advantage of maybe a situation when it arises. He's going to stick to whatever he feels like were the original targets. And plenty of people can be frustrated by that. Sometimes you have an Osimhen type of situation where Osimhen all of a sudden is headed out of Napoli and is guaranteed to not want to be playing for an Antonio Conte. And plenty of Spurs fans feel like we should just be taking advantage of that. You don't always get that type of situation with a top player like that. And I think Paul Markey feels that way with Manuel Ugarte, and I don't blame him.
100%, and I do think we should be open to opportunities. You know, sometimes you might not plan for things, but this golden egg appears on your doorstep. You know, you're not going to turn it around and step on it and crush it. You're going to bring it in, nurture it, you know, and keep it. And I do think, you know, that's what we should be doing if there is opportunities like someone like a Manuel Ugarte. Okay, I may not plan for it, but you know, when someone like that comes on the market, you've got to go for it. When it comes to Lange, what I will say is, and this is a video that me and Jack did do when we signed him, when we looked at his recruitment at Aston Villa, it wasn't his European recruitment that you looked at him and said, that's why Tottenham's bringing him. That's, in fact, why they brought in Monchi, I think it is that his name from Sevilla, for him to be that guy to bring in a lot of the guys from the European market. What Lange did do successfully at Aston Villa, and the reason why I thought Tottenham brought him here, and maybe me and Jack did highlight that in the video when we signed Lange, is because of his homegrown recruitment at Aston Villa. The reason why their squad is so strong is because not only the foreign side of the court, which are allowed 17 players, is strong, but also their homegrown players are strong. And many players that many clubs would look at and say, we take him. When you look at ours, it's absolutely decimated. And I feel that's why Lange is here. But many people would argue, well, he hasn't done it, has he? You know, to Paul Markey, he needs to pull his finger out. But I'm just giving maybe context on that's what I originally thought Lange was in here to do, which was to work in the homegrown market and booster that side. And maybe Archie Gray was one of them to a degree. But big up Paul Markey. Really appreciate the support, my man. We've got Chunky Cheeks. He says, a bit like me, he says this feels like every other Spurs window, to be honest. What I will say is, I think if I'm correct, the last two summer transfer windows, we did actually act a lot sooner than what we thought. And it did look like we were changing tact. But a lot of windows before them too, I think you're absolutely spot on. But like I said, because the club are in the homegrown market, they have to buy English players or players that fill that homegrown quota. Because when you look at the squad, there's not much more room on the foreign side without having to cash in on some players or players that are absolutely contributing to what we do and players that people don't want to sell. The homegrown side is the one that really needs to be beefed up. And we know with Daniel Levy and his penny pinching ways, it's not an ideal market for us to be buying in. And that's why I feel like this has taken so long. And I also think there's an element where clubs are holding back for the Saudi League to start making their purchases and maybe dictate the prices they're going to sell players off the back of it and stuff like that. But I do agree with everybody else. If we were serious, we would have had them in before the preseason tour to allow them to integrate Chunky Cheeks. But big yourself up, my man, and really do appreciate the support, brother. A bit like me, though, Chunky Cheeks. That's what people call me. And then we've got Artist T, big up, my man. And he says, all this talk about ambition, and yet it's always or and never and both. Eze and Neto play in different positions, and yet it's one or the other when both positions need an upgrade. Big clubs get both. I mean, Jack, this is many people's frustration as well. You know, it's always, you can have this, but you can't have this. And we always say the same going into every season. We haven't done enough. We haven't solved all our problems. You know, many would argue coming into this market, because we don't need so much, there's no reason why Spurs shouldn't solve all the problems. And it shouldn't be this or that. It should just be get the squad built so we can go and challenge for titles, which is what Postecoglou wants.
Yeah, it's kind of the constant predicament that we have as Spurs fans, where we kind of do look at how other teams seem to operate when they also have plenty of targets that they need to hit. They also have plenty of holes in their squad, and they just, in certain situations, just seem to be able to fill them sooner or easier than we do. We take our time. We always seem to haggle. We don't make it that easy on the club that we're buying from. We don't make it easy on ourselves. We don't make it easy even on the player that we're trying to buy, right? Sometimes the player, as you even reported in the past, I was ready on that move for Spurs, but it took like 2-3 weeks for it to happen instead of it being, 48 hours or 72 hours. That is in the case of other clubs.
Dini was one of them.
And even just this summer, you could look at Bayern, who I feel like at one point started to have some questionable transfer business over like a couple of summers. They weren't seem to get things right. But then again, you still look at their ambition where they're signing players in positions where they already have really excellent guys there. But those guys maybe haven't been performing for like a season or two. And now they're already ready to move on or provide competition. You look at that Michael Olise signing. He's there to probably compete with someone like a Leroy Sané, who plenty of people might rate or not rate. But at one point, he was a very good player, a very talented one. And now they're maybe even moving on from a Leroy Sané and signing someone like Olise. They brought in Desiree Doué to compete with whoever plays out on the left wing for them. Maybe it's going to be a Musiala sort of competition. Maybe it's going to be a replacement eventually for someone that line like Thomas Muller, or maybe even Matisse Tell or someone like that. And they did it before with the center backs. They brought in Kim Min-jae. They brought in Matthijs de Ligt. And now they're looking to get rid of de Ligt. And they may even look forward to getting rid of Kim Min-jae. It's just certain clubs do operate a lot more ruthlessly, a lot more efficiently. And Spurs have never been that way. And it's a constant frustration with us. And it's kind of, to a degree, feels like what we signed up for. It's just a part of the plight, part of the constant frustration of being a Spurs fan. We just seem to do things in a far less efficient, far less ruthless manner.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's never efficiency. You know, Ange Postecoglou set out his stall all last season. You know, the club, he's had meetings with the clubs. He's even put it in press conferences. Stop talking to me about top four. I'm here to build something to win trophies. And then everyone, it seems like, okay, everyone's on the same page heading into the summer. And then the transfer committee obviously aren't. And it's really, really sort of frustration. And look, Ange Postecoglou is never going to come out and say he's unhappy about this and that, because at the end of the day, fans can sit there and say, yes, he's a yes man. I want him to come out and condone what's going on. But they're going to be the same fans that are going to say, well, you can't say that about the football club. He has to go. You're going to get him sacked. When Conte done it, fans wanted him sacked. So Postecoglou ain't going to walk into that trap. But we will be throwing him in under the bus if we don't address certain issues. And to be honest with you, doesn't matter what manager comes in next, you're going to see an initial managerial bounce. And then the same issues that Postecoglou is facing in terms of the team on the business we haven't done is going to be the same that's going to haunt the next manager coming in here. Striker is a position you do not F about with. So hopefully, you know, we learn our lesson, Artist T. But again, I think many people would actually argue at this point, it doesn't really matter whether you sign it now or deadline day. It's still too late. So big up, Artist up. Really appreciate the support, my man, and big yourself
Prepare
up.
for a big season, my man. It's going to be a stressful one. I appreciate your support, man.
Hopefully not a stressful one. I just want one where all of us Spurs fans can be come by all together and actually enjoy something for once. Keith Edwards says, I'd rather pay the 60 to 65 million for Eze, as he will give more options. Now, I did see a report earlier on that Tottenham were maybe prepared to go a little bit above the buyout clause, you know, to sort of try and bring them in. I don't get that one personally, because if I was them, I'd just pay the buyout clause and bring them in. You don't need to go above, to be brutally honest with you. But look, for me, I'd be very pissed off if we do not get Eze. We've been told all summer long, Eze. And I think most people understood you would have to wait for the guys to finish the Euros, get back and stuff like that. If we don't get him in, I think it will really annoy a lot of people. Now, they're already sold Elise. I think, did I see something about Mark Guehi? Could he be on his way out of there? Are they really going to sell someone like Eze as well? And this is why sometimes Tottenham need to act with a bit more efficiency, so that these, you know, because there will come a point where Palace will go, well, look, we can't sell all of our best players this window. You're going to have to stay until next summer, and you don't fancy Tottenham are going to revisit that. And again, we should just be looking after our own interest anyway. But, you know, we should be in for Eze. We should be looking to get this one done over the line, plus Neto, plus a striker, you know, to really solve them forward positions. It's a huge problem at this football club. And if they'd done that, I think people would probably understand if they didn't go for a left back, a backup left back and stuff like that, you know. We just want to see players of quality coming in here. And Eze is quality. That's all we want to see. Someone that knows what they're doing. So hopefully we can get it done. Keith Edwards, big yourself up, my man. I'd absolutely love Eze to come in here. Big up, Soph, as well. Become a new YouTube member. First of all, I want to say I absolutely love this guy, because we don't always agree on everything. But you know what? He states his points. I state mine. We listen to each other, and it never, ever gets hostile. So, Soph, big yourself up, and thank you very much for that, my man. And welcome to the Irish Hotspur community. And hopefully you enjoy yourself while we are here. Big up, SOF. Take this from Jacob Anderson, who is an elite member. Says, I think they were wanting to see how Bergvall and Gray would do in the preseason before they decide to move for other targets. I think them doing as well as they have changed the target slightly.
You wonder.
I do hear what... Go on, Jack.
No, sorry, Dave. You say what your point is. That did make me raise my eyebrows, but yeah, make your point.
I was going to say, I do understand the point that he's making, but when you go to what Postecoglou said a couple of days ago, that the plan is still in place, we haven't deviated from the plan that was set from the outset. That plan was made a long time ago, and I do think a part of that factor of hiring Postecoglou was to bring some of these youngsters through anyway, because the club already put a lot of them on long-term contracts before he even signed on the dotted line. And I think, you know, when they were buying Archie Gray, I think it was in a view for the first team. Maybe they've been surprised how well Bergvall has come on, or how well it looks like he's integrated in, for sure. But I've always maintained some of these guys don't actually have to be registered for the squad, which effect allows you to keep them as under 21 players, but still play them as senior players and still register 25-man squad. And with us challenging all 4 trophies, Jacob, I do think this is an area that we should be looking to take advantage of in order to aid our push for silverware.
Yeah, and Jacob Anderson with Bergvall, I do think he might have been a player that really surprised Spurs, because their sporting director for Djurgården said something about him settling in like 6 to 12 months. This kid's practically settled in just a few weeks, it feels like, at Tottenham Hotspur. So I wonder if that has made them change plans slightly, maybe even made them change plans on the number 8, like the Conor Gallagher rumored signing, or even what we spoke about earlier with a guy like Ugarte. Maybe someone like Bergvall has really given them something to think about, why maybe they don't want to block that pathway for him. And also just want to say thank you for supporting us. I think like plenty of times you've been throwing in the milestones, and it's like 37 months or something as like an elite member.
Madness.
So Jacob, you're absolute madman for tolerating Dave and I for this long. And so we really appreciate you. And thanks for all the support. Thanks for even being in the chat tonight. Good man.
Big up, Jacob, my man. Absolute legend. And then we have this from Mosh Chops. I mean, the mention of chops is making your boy's stomach rumble. I haven't had chops in quite some time, actually. Says, Eze buyout is only for clubs playing in the Champions League. Okay, so that's maybe why that report was out earlier on that I was reading, that Spurs are willing to maybe go above that clause to really try and get their man interesting. I'll have to go and do a bit of research on that. Big up, Mosh Chops. Really appreciate that bit of information, my man. Absolute legend. Great name. Makes me hungry, that name.
Like Chunky Cheeks. It's a great name. Big up, Mosh Chops.
Yeah, great name. Great name. But look, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep this fan show on the road. The next guest we had is Eddie the Eagle, all the way from Australia.
Just quickly, Dave, I think Eddie and Sean have actually given up their spot for Michael, who has to run an errand. Okay. And then I think it will be Eddie and Sean after that. Big up to Eddie and Sean for being patient and giving up their spot in line. But we're speaking to Michael from Poland. Great, plenty of people like to hear what he has to say.
Let's go, Big Mick. Let's hear what he has to say. Michael, how are you, sir?
Big up, Eddie. Big up, Sean. Thank you for letting me in before you.
Yeah, Big Nick versus Big Dom. Big Dom Solanke, Michael. What are your thoughts on DOMINIC SOLANKE? Do you want him?
Jesus Christ.
I'll be honest, it's
are you underwhelmed
at the end of the day?
You know what the problem with Solanke is? The problem is the timing, the context, and the fact that he plays for Bournemouth, in my opinion. I think I've spoken plenty of times that we, as a Spurs fan base, we are waiting for our club to show us that we want to be serious with this, winning trophies and competing stuff, right? And for us to believe that we are serious, we need signings that will say, listen, we bought this player will improve our team, this player will give us this, that, and the other, right? And for me, DOMINIC SOLANKE, when I look at like a player in isolation, when I just look at Solanke, right, I don't think he's a bad player, actually. I don't want to say he's like a world beater. I don't want to say he's like the perfect, because I've seen some mad takes on Solanke, right, that he's the perfect player for the system, that he, will cook in this system and whatever. It's always going from zero to hero with some of the takes, right? It's never like somewhere in the middle that I think he will suit us, right? I just think he will suit us, but I don't think he will be like a world beater. I don't think he will be a complete letdown, right? But as I said, I think the issue for me is the timing and the context, right? The context that I just mentioned and the timing, the fact that it's August, the fact that we are starting the season in 2 weeks, the fact that Solanke wasn't part of the England squad, right? All of these excuses, I even want to call them excuses, right? All of those excuses that we've had about Euros is going on at Copa America, this is going on, that is going on, PSR, this, that, and the other, right? And we've patiently waited throughout all those stepping stones or, all those kicks of the can down the road. We've waited through all of that, right? And it's 6th of August, and we still have no other players in the squad other than Archie Gray, right? And also, people tend to add Bergvall to that, right? I would like to remind people that we bought Bergvall in January, right? So he's not even a summer signing. He just came here because he couldn't earlier, right? Because he wasn't eligible to play in the UK, right? So right now, the only addition that we've made is Archie Gray, and with Archie Gray, I think that there is this one amazing Polish podcast about Championship. It's in Polish, so unfortunately I cannot recommend it to you guys, right, to listen, right? But trust me, those guys are super knowledgeable about Championship. They made the whole YouTube career out of that, right? Wow. And I think they summarized it the best, right? They said that basically what Leeds' aim with Archie Gray was to play him as much as they can, to promote him and to sell him for big money, right? this is how they commented on the sale of Archie Gray, right? And yes, I think he's like a talented kid. I think that there is a player there, right? But it's not like the step up from playing for Leeds in Championship to playing for us with all the expectation that we have as a fan base. Like, he's not enough to strengthen this team, right? And as you boys said, like, Solanke, if we bought him, like if all of this was happening at the end of June or at the beginning of July, I think the reception would have been much, much different, right? But the issue is it's fucking August, right? As Dermot said, we are all growing frustrated, right? Because our own bloody manager said that we need players in for season, that we need players to try to learn to play with each other, try to learn the system, right? And it's bloody August and we have no first team signings, right? So yeah, it's like, with all that criticism that I just gave, I also like, I have to caveat a bit, I try to be balanced, right? I have to caveat it with, I don't think transfers are as easy as people think they are. I don't think it's just like, I don't know, Lunch just picks up a phone, phones Bournemouth, hey guys, listen, 60 million for Solanke, okay? Yeah, okay, don't deal, right? It doesn't work that way, right? And also, I personally think we had different targets than Neto and Solanke. I think we were really in for Eze and Tony, but from, like, I've heard on different streams that apparently Tony rejected us, which is one of the issues that maybe happened, right? And I think with Eze, they just don't want to pay such a huge fee up front, right? Because Dave said about like us going over the release clause, right?
Yeah.
So apparently the report was that we are like willing to go over the release clause, but to spread the payment and not pay everything in one big chunk, right? Because release clause, you have to pay like one big chunk and then just like some add-ons, right? I think that was the reason, but I don't think Crystal Palace wants to agree to that. And with the way our club works, we just want like bend to their will, right?
Yeah.
My biggest issue, as I said, with all these caveats, that it's not as easy to make transfers, that players can reject you, that you can you might have issues with agreeing with clubs, right? My biggest issue is, like, did we not have other targets? Like, where we like, out of all the data analysis, did we just land on Tony and Eze, and after we got rejected or whatever, we just started scrambling around and like, listen, Neto and Solanke sounds good, right? But like, how comes it takes so much time to find a different target, right? I am really getting frustrated with it, because it's like, for me, I don't know ins and outs, right? But for me, it should have been like, we have Tony, I don't know, like Solanke, Jimenez, and like other players, right? We have Eze, Neto, Gyökeres. Like, we have targets for each position, right? And you just approach Crystal Palace, they do not agree to your structure of payment, you tell them to fuck off and you move to a different target, right?
Yeah.
But it seems like we are not doing this, right? And this is my biggest issue. Like, sorry, I know it's a long monologue, right? But I'm just really frustrated, because also I'm already seeing a lot of like a lot of fans just putting, like, I don't want to say putting blame on Ange, but
I see it. Yeah,
like,
I see it.
it's like, because he's the voice of the club, rightfully so, fans direct their frustrations toward him, right? But I don't think it's necessarily his fault, because like there are some things that aren't up to his like duty, right? It's not his duty to bring in players. It's not his duty to talk to other clubs, right?
Yeah.
But he will be the target. So it's like there is a growing frustration in me that, like, we are already starting to wobble, like we always do, right? Spurs is always like this, right? Every single manager, every single season, we go into the season hopeful, something happens along the way, and we all just start wobbling. And we are such a strange club, because when you just give us a wobble, we try to resonate, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And to all the people that are saying that Ange will be sacked by Christmas, I wouldn't be surprised, because I already see a lot of frustration with how the club is like performing right now. And I think if we pair that with like if we pair that with like a bad run of fixtures or whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if fans started turning against, right? And Ange and the club and all the stuff, right? So I'm just frustrated because like I don't want this to happen, obviously, right? It's like obviously I want us to do well, obviously I want us to have targets. It's just like I don't want to call people incompetent in the club, but are they incompetent? Like do
you know what?
Been
Can I ask you a
it plenty of times before, Michael. You wouldn't be the first one.
I want to ask you a question. Are we seeing the transition from Paratici to Johan Lang? And it's maybe showing that Lang is maybe a little bit incompetent, because when Paratici was pulling all the strings and all the directions, we seem to be a lot more efficient in the market, especially in terms of incomings. But since Lang has maybe taken over more of the reins since he signed, everything has slowed down more so nearly to a complete halt, Michael.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to say because like there are so many like reports about like Paratici being this advisory role or Paratici doing this, Paratici doing that, right? And I agree with you. I think they are like trying to move away from Paratici in a sense, right? Because he's not officially like an employee. Let's say like he doesn't have like a director of football status or whatever, right? He's like an advisor or whatever, right? So I guess it's only logical that Lange, as our new director of football, wants to stamp his authority on the transfer market, right? He wants to do things his way because he's the boss, right?
Yeah.
And Paratici is not the boss according to the title of the position that he's taking, right? So yes, I agree. I think there is a bit of like shift of power kind of thing, right? But then again, it's like I get that this can happen, but how fucking hard it is to buy a player for the first squad, right? Like I get it. Like some signings won't work, right? I completely understand it, right? I completely understand that maybe Brentford had agreed the transfer fee with us, and Tony told us to piss off, right? Because he wants to go to a better club. I completely agree that that maybe Crystal Palace doesn't want to agree to the transfer, right? Because of the structure. But Eze told us he wants to come, right? But there is something missing, right? I think there is also another way. Like City just sold Alvarez, and there were links with City and Eze, right? Maybe Eze is waiting for City, right? And maybe Eze is the one stopping everything, right? So it's like I get that it's hard to get players in, right? But if you really want to be ambitious and you really want to support this manager, and this manager has told you that he wants to have players early, then maybe it is better to move on from like the number 1 target to the number 2 target if it's an easier deal, and if you can make it like if you can make the deal, right? So it's really frustrating because like I don't know how to like extend my thoughts.
Yeah, Michael,
like,
just Dave, what were you about to ask?
No, go on.
I was going to say, Michael, just because you only have so much time left, and I'm not sure if you've given your full thoughts on this. Do you see Neto, since we might be going after him instead of an Eze, is he another example of Spurs kind of going after their second, third choice, do you feel like?
I don't mind Neto, right? I think I voiced my like concerns with his injury record, which is like an obvious statement to make, right? As I think Saba put in a comment that he missed like 50 games out of last 100 games that he could play for Wolves, which is a thing to be concerned about, right? I just like purely like profile wise, I absolutely love the player. I think he is what we lack in this team, right? Which is a like skillful, intelligent dribbler, but who is actually fast, right? Because I think Kulusevski I think Kulusevski can dribble. I think Kulusevski like is intelligent. I just think Kulusevski lacks the dynamism, right? That's why I more and more it starts to grow on me that Kulusevski would be better in the middle of the park, either as a false nine or as a center attacking mid, because you don't need as much pace in the central parts of the pitch, right? As playing those attacking roles, right? But both Neto and Eze are this, right? They are pacey, intelligent dribblers, and we have pace merchants in like Johnson, and we have Like I know it's smart to call Son a pace merchant, but you get what I'm saying. Right? Son isn't as much of a dribbler as he is just a knock a ball past you and run through, right? Type of player. So I think it would really suit us to offer something different, to have like a different, avenue to help us break teams down when they are low blocking against us, right? So again, and I want to stress this: I am all for Neto and Solanke. I actually think it's not like they are world-class players, but I think they can really suit the system. My issue is it's 6th of August and none of them are our players, right? If you really had them as the second target, then go for them. Then just screw Eze and Tony, stop waiting for them, stop bending over, because like the club is so adamant on not bending over when it comes to like financial stuff, but they are like so easy to bend over and wait for players to decide or whatever, right? Just move on. Just skip a bit and move to your second target, right? I'm not against going for second targets. I'm against waiting till August when your manager is saying that he wants players at the beginning of July, right? That is my biggest issue, and I think we'll feel it. I think even if you bring in Solanke and Neto this week, like at the end of the week, let's say we have Solanke and Neto, right? It leaves them like 1.5 weeks to prepare for the season, right? To learn different systems, to learn different roles, to learn how other players in the attacking areas play, right? Because that's also important. They have to learn how Son runs. They have to learn how Johnson operates, right? They have to learn how Madison operates. It's like, I'm just growing frustrated, right? And I honestly, as I said, I'm starting to see the cracks and the wobbles in our fan base and in our club, and I think it will just grow and grow and grow unless we actually like pull our shit together and do what we are supposed to, right?
100%. And look, I think you summed up many people's sort of concerns, and in that regard, that, I think most people are starting to wobble. It's not an ideal way to be starting the season. And this is where the chairman, needs to be doing better. Look, at the end of the day, he doesn't care about optics. He cares about the bank balance, right? We all know that. Yeah. But I've always made this point at some point, and especially in our position, because we don't have to be so prudent on the finances, at some point you're going to have to wrestle with, if you want trophies and you want to be ambitious, you might have to pay over the odds to get someone in here to help that happen. But, it's not like we have to be penny pinching anyway. So I think you sum up many people's thoughts on that, to be brutally honest with you, Michael. But Michael, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And I think you echo a lot of people's thoughts in the fan base right now, Michael. And again, we'll see you soon, my man.
Yeah. Once again, thanks to the guys that let me in front of them from the queue. Like, big up on the new icon of the channel. I honestly didn't notice when you changed it, but it's absolutely lovely. I think it's lovely, by the way. And one last thing, I don't know if you guys know the Sport Speedway. Because like I know it's really big in Poland, and ironically a lot of like players here in the Polish league are from like Great Britain and from the like from Ireland and all that stuff, right? But I don't think the sport is as big as it is, as big there as it is here. But I just want to say my home team is doing really, really great. We are into the playoffs. I'm really stoked. Nice. I absolutely love the sport. So yeah, if anyone like sees Speedway somewhere on the TV, I recommend watching it. It's a really fun sport. It's really dynamic, and if you are into like any sort of like motor, like F1 or whatever, I think you will like it. So yeah,
love that.
American
great plug. Two great plugs: the Polish Championship podcast and then the new motorsport. Absolutely love
huge in America.
Yeah. In Australia, especially like Australia, like Polish league is the best in the world, actually. By the way, just saying. But I know it's not a big sport, so it's nothing to brag about. But Speedway is amazing. So yeah, cheers, guys.
Have a good night, Michael. Best of luck with your errands, my friend.
Yeah. You have a good evening, my man. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon, buddy.
See you, man.
Bye-bye. Well, that's Michael, I think, summing up pretty much everyone's sort of feelings and frustrations in this window so far. Everyone, big up Michael on that. Where are we off to next? Just want to welcome in Hotspur Hippie as well quickly.
Big up, Paul.
If the window stays, it is Sack Lounge and Mun. Well, ironically, people want to Paratici out the club. I think they'll be scrambling back to get him back in here, to be brutally honest at this point. Hotspur Hippie, the guy that was the expert in the transfer window. But look, like I said, I do think Lange was always brought in here to operate in the homegrown market, and maybe that is what's taking time. We've got Graham Pennant says Dave Irony is Pedro Porras better than Johnson, Kulu, Neto, Werner, etc. But sadly, Ange will never play him there at right wing. No, look, that's a fair point. I've always argued I think he could play right wing as well as right back. I just think he's sensational. You know, he can score goals. He's got a great way of passing and absolutely everything else. Spot on. Paul Markey, great to see you as well. Again, thank you for coming in again. He says, we don't need a striker. Ooh. He says, Richie can do the job once fit, and it shouldn't be hard to do that since that Numpty Scott has left the club. Numpty Scott, who are we talking about?
Scott Munn.
He hasn't left the club. He's still at the club.
Numpty Scott.
Someone from Scotland. Maybe let us know in the chat, Paul Markey.
Just let us know in the chat,
we don't need a striker.
Yeah.
To say we don't need a striker, look, I like Richarlison. I think when he's on the pitch, I think he does a lot better than maybe what people give him credit for. But the big problem is with Richarlison is he's never available. You know, he's had 2 years now at this football club where he's actually more injury prone than what Neto is coming in from Wolves, which is a bit concerning. And it's just about the availability. And you don't know what his availability is going to be like over the course of this season. And for me, I think that's ultimately why we're sitting here right now talking about needing a striker, is because he hasn't done the job that we initially wanted him to do. He hasn't fulfilled that role as well as we wanted. So I think that's why we're here now looking for a striker. And sorry, I think I'm after swallowing a fly, Jack. I'll take over.
No worries, Dave. Looks like with Lazy 8 just coming in, maybe he's provided, big up Nick, maybe he's provided the answer. He might be referring to the physio that might have left. I don't even know the name of the physio. It just shows how much more knowledgeable sometimes you guys can be than me, which is quite sad, to be honest, because I should be knowing this stuff a bit better. But Richarlison,
no. I think yeah, it is that physio. Isn't he from New Zealand? I believe he's been there a long time.
And I think that's maybe what Paul Markey is referring to when it comes to Richarlison, who's had a lot of injury troubles, right? And if that physio is out the door, if that physio is no longer here, some might argue, maybe Paul might be arguing here, that he contributed in some sort of way to Richarlison's injury issues. And there is something to that. Dave and I, when we have had a lot of frustrations with the club, plenty of times, we did also point the finger at the medical team with how poorly they seem to handle some of the injuries, some of the injury recoveries, to the estimations of how long they'll be out, etc. It just kind of was all of the above, it felt like, with the medical team, and just how frustrating they could be with handling some of these big injuries that always do seem to happen with us. And we've had guys that just pretty much remain, head of medicine and sports science. Thank you, Paul. Much more knowledgeable than I am, clearly. And I'm actually relieved to hear that's even happened, Paul, because it's something that we've complained about in the past. And Richarlison is one that has really had a lot of injury issues. I think that was even the case at Everton. But at Spurs, I think it's been worse, where at times when we really needed him to be healthy, Paul, he just wasn't. And I think that's what's contributed to this really mixed sort of reputation that Richarlison has in the fan base. There are people like you and me, we feel like he really helped us out last season. And had he been more available, I think he would have really ended up pushing hard for getting close to maybe 20 plus goals. But the fact that he couldn't stay healthy meant that he sort of sat in that sort of ambiguity in the Spurs fan base about whether he is reliable enough, whether he is good enough. And then we have to cast our minds back to when he was playing well versus he wasn't playing well. And lots of times when he wasn't playing well, according to Richarlison, it was because he wasn't fully fit, and he didn't have the whole time to recover, and he didn't have maybe even the proper injury kind of management. Even Harry Kane in the past, right, went to an ankle doctor and an ankle physio.
To bring in a guy from Canada. He was flying in a guy from Canada, Jack.
Exactly, like flying in your own barber. Usually you're okay with them flying in their own haircut guy, but definitely not their own physio. And we've seen Richarlison, I think, do something similar, where he went out and got his own surgery or something like that, and has also, maybe leaned and outsourced, this type of medical help. So there's something to that. And Paul, Dave and I have made a lot of cases in the past for Richarlison being given a bit more slack and a bit more credit. And it's just one that I think has been a very divisive subject in the the fan base with Richarlison, about whether he is good enough to lead the line. Personally, I think so. I think he needs competition, though. I think someone like a Tony, someone like a Solanke, who is homegrown, is really good competition for him. Kulusevski as well. But a lot of the fan base might disagree with that, and they think that we should just cash in on Richarlison entirely. I don't feel that way, though.
And the thing is, we've always maintained this. Well, even though you have Richarlison, you still need a second striker in here to compete with the guy. You know, it's good practice to have two players for every position. And so I'd still, even if we do keep Richarlison, I'd still advocate that we need another striker in here. And also, I think that the fact that Richie hasn't been available over the course of preseason so far to maybe prove a point probably accelerates the need for a striker. Now, Jeff Scott is actually something I want to, the New Zealand medical guy from Sports Science, something I want to talk about just quickly as well. How the hell has he lasted at the club this long? I remember playing Football Manager 2007 and he was head of the medical department back then. You know, so how is he still head of medical department in 2024 and science and everything else has moved on so much? You know, and maybe that could be a reason why all of our players spend so long out injured, and maybe someone has finally seen that we need a change in that department, and hopefully now it's happening, Paul Markey. But yeah, I remember he used to be head of Tottenham's, academy and all back in 2007, because although people may not like Football Manager, it does go into a lot of details and who's in what departments and stuff like that. I remember he was back there in 2007, Paul Markey. So hopefully now when Van de Ven, if he does get injured, he'll be back a lot quicker, same with a lot of our players, because one thing was a common trend. We'd be told 3 weeks. We're sitting there 6 weeks later and we're still going, okay, where's this guy? I thought he was supposed to be available. So hopefully now we see an improvement in that department, Paul Markey. Big yourself up, brother, and really appreciate the support. You're absolutely spot on there, my man. Drew Zilla, good to see you, sir. Member for 11 months. Here's to many more months. Absolutely love that. We'll have a little cheers here, Drew. And he says, watching in the same time zone for the first time. Big up to the best community. Come on, you Spurs. Come on, you Flat Cap Army. Come on, you Harris Army. Come on, you Kaniki Army. Get all the armies in there. Absolutely love that. He hasn't forgotten one of them, which is absolutely class. And how does it feel being back in the motherland, Drew Zilla? You know, let us know. And also, like I said, I do wish you and hopefully your family are all good, my man. You know, I know why you're back there and stuff like that. So hopefully you're all right, Drew. But good to see you. Will you be making an appearance at all? Just let us know. Jack, continue on, say, Drew.
Yeah, Drew, hopefully you don't miss the barbecue too much from where you were in Middle America, because I know it was quite good over there. I have heard that London, as well as England's barbecue scene, though, is continuing to improve and is continuing to get better, as is the Mexican food. So I've heard, especially in London. So maybe there's something to be hopeful about there, because I know you got to have plenty of that kind of different type of cuisine where you were in the US. And then also kind of similar to me, you moved back to the homeland. I moved back to my homeland of Seattle. You're back in the homeland of the UK. So hopefully you are kind of going through that nostalgia trip like I've been, you know, where you get to see a lot of old friends, a lot of old things that you used to really love and appreciate. And I do hope that things are okay with you, my man. Really appreciate your support for us. And like plenty of other people in the house, plenty of other people that support this channel, we appreciate that you can have these debates with us when there's even a difference of opinion. You're a very good man about it. You know, you say your points, but you also listen to others as well. You're a great class act, Drew. Good class
very
act.
Patient with me over Brennan Johnson. It's like he's trying to coach me into, you know, it's going to happen, Dave. You don't want to miss the boat. So I appreciate that, Drew. Big yourself up, my man, and hopefully you're keeping well. We've also got new channel member Eugene S. Welcome as a new member, my man. Hopefully you enjoy yourself in this community. Tomorrow, myself and Jack are going to take a day for behind the scenes. We'll have content out tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. But we're going to be redoing all the members, putting out there what you guys are entitled to over the course of this season. One of the perks, which we're already getting underway, is sending in your fan cams after every single game and stuff like that. So Eugene S., make sure you look out for all the perks that come with that membership, and really appreciate the support, brother. Absolutely nice to see. And then we've got Jacob Bannister. Great name. I love a last name when it's like Bannister. It's absolute great name. And plus, they're good. They help you up the stairs as well. So big yourself up. It's sort of double. You know, it's your last name and a help up the stairs. So absolutely brilliant. Says, look how Villa are moving after Lange. Well, look, that's why, I said that's why they brought in Munchie, and that guy, because he was coming in here and he was going to improve their recruitment across the European market. I think that is something that Lange doesn't really have the contacts for and stuff like that to be able to get the deals done. That's why they've brought in someone like Munchie. They realize if they really want to be in European football consistently, you've got to have a guy that has the right connections and the know-how and how to deal with a lot of these teams across Europe. And I think that's where Lange really lacked. But like I said, when we signed him, we didn't bring him in here to operate in the European market. If we want to operate in the European market, we just bung Paratici 10 grand and say, right, this is the deal we want to happen. Make sure you go and get it done, just so he lives up to his Don title, with the bribes and stuff like that. But I do think Johan Lange was brought in here to operate in the English market. If you look at his recruitment at Villa, that is one area he really excelled. When you look at our squad right now, it's one area that really needs improvement. I think once we improve that homegrown side, I think he'll be straight out of this football club again, to be brutally honest with you, Jacob. Jack, am I being harsh? Anything you want to say to Mr. Bannister?
I mean, there's a cynical part of me that wants to look at kind of Lang and like the fact that they did get rid of him. So maybe they did use him for that homegrown recruitment, but then they didn't see much potential with him after that, where they realized that they needed to start improving things in also the foreign market and getting guys that were non-homegrown stars into the club. And Aston Villa certainly have been doing that in the last season or two. And they probably just, if I were to be cynical, maybe thought that Lang wasn't really up to the case or really wasn't up to the job to be able to do that. He helped fix some of their homegrown recruitment, but is he good enough to fix some of the other areas? Maybe they didn't think he was, and that's why they moved on from him. And Spurs, who had a homegrown problem, have brought him in. But the fact that he's mostly in charge of some of the other transfers as well kind of leaves you to wonder, maybe that's part of the problems that we're experiencing, if I were to be cynical about it. And Jacob saying also he'd be happy to help you up the stairs, Dave.
Oh, no, I appreciate that, my man. Absolutely love it, Really appreciate that. Hopefully you don't take offense to it. I'm just having a goof about. Hopefully you enjoy that, my man. And big up Eugene as well, new YouTube member as well. Absolute legend. People laughing at my stairs joke. And Drew saying he's absolutely loving life. He says it's being a bit strange, but look, you'll get used to it, Drew. By the way, stay safe over there right now as well, my man. Make sure you do. And then also, Jason, someone says Indian food is the best cuisine. I mean, that's hard not to debate. I mean, it is quite what would you say, pleasing on the palate and also the stomach. Maybe not the other end, but everywhere else it's very, very pleasing. And then Ross, Pearl Stone, big up. Oh, what an absolute corker of the last names right now are absolutely on fire. Pearl Stone, I mean, that's an absolute great name. It sounds like if you have kids, they're destined for absolute greatness, to be brutally honest with you.
Sounds like a Game
Ross,
of Thrones surname, Pearl Stone. It sounds like, you're from royalty, Ross, of some kind. And he's picked up a fan show membership. I think he's also saying he's listening from New York. Big up to you, Ross. Wow. I've actually just sadly left New York from Brooklyn. So let us know if you would like to. Certainly don't have to. But you're from the glorious state of New York, the Empire State, sir. But appreciate you listening in. Thanks for even, of all the channels, of all the places to be watching right now, thanks for even picking us. And I'm glad you have been enjoying the discussion so far. And there are plenty more fans who are going to give their say. You'll be, you'll be allowed to listen to other people than just Dave and I. For once, other people will be giving their thoughts on the situation. Big up, Ross. Thank you.
And I believe James is also from America as well. I believe that was Dolly's he sent in. Whatever you guys do with your last names over there, you're really enhancing them and making yourselves look great and setting yourself up for greatness. Big up, absolute corker of a last name as well. But look, guys, let's keep this moving. We've got people waiting in the back end for quite some time, so we're going to, keep this going. I believe the next guest we have is Eddie the Eagle, all the way from Australia. Let's hear what he has to say. Big up, Eddie. How you keeping, my man?
I'm good, Dave. You?
I'm in flying form today, as you can tell, lad. I always try to be in flying form. I always try to smile, But in general, I think it's good for life. But Eddie, I mean, what you want to talk about, I suppose we'll start with DOMINIC SOLANKE. Are you in Jack's court on a DOMINIC SOLANKE move, or are you in my court?
I'm in neither court, really. I'm okay with the signing. I'm not thrilled about it. I'd rather us go and sign Vlahovic or Gyökeres. But I'm not against getting another striker into this borderline and into this team, because we do need a new striker. We need another body in that. Like, we have Ribsy and we have Kulu now, who can play in that position really well. But we actually do need a proper number 9, and that is Solanke, who is good on the press. He's pretty broad. He could boss his way through that mid. And truth be told, anyone can play well as a striker in any system, really, if they're big and tall and can control the ball well. Anyone can play well in this sort of system, and they can score goals. So I'm not against it at all. I'm just not all for it, really.
When I spoke to you last week, Edward, I know you were saying you wanted the big striker and you were expecting that to happen, and you were trying to calm people down. I remember you were like, come on, guys, a big striker is going to be happening. But it sounds like you're relatively satisfied, but not fully satisfied by the striker.
I want a big name. Of course, this is what fans want. We want big names, and I want Jokeres or a Vlahovic. Those are the two people I really want. I feel like they will do so well in the Ainge system. I'm not actually in the Tony court. I just feel like his attitude is not right for this sort of locker room Ainge is going for. I feel like it will ruin it. And truth be told, I also don't. It's a big risk with his gambling. It's most likely, if you're a footballer, you don't gamble for the fun of it. You gamble because you have a small problem. And I feel like there is a possibility of a repeat.
What I will say on that, Eddie, on the gambling front is it is been inherent in football for a long time, way before Tony and stuff. It's like almost they're bored and they have nothing else to do, and it gives them a little bit of a thrill. You know, that's what many players that I've heard that have come out of the game and done podcasts and spoke about their gambling addictions say. But and I think where Tony probably feels most hard justified is there's a lot of people betting in football. Most of them are just smarter. They give it to their family to go and put the bets on, or other people and stuff like that. Whereas Tony got caught, and I feel like he feels pissed off because it's one of the biggest secrets in football. They're all gambling and stuff like that. But that wouldn't put me off. But let me ask you about Jokeres, because I absolutely really like the guy who's brilliant at Coventry. He's gone on to Sporting. He's absolutely ripped it up over there. And I was having a discussion with Jack earlier on saying Sporting don't tend to get their signings wrong. They always make good signings, and they usually go on to bigger and better things at other clubs. But there's an £86 million, which I think works out at €100 million release clause. Do you see Tottenham paying that?
Levy, no, I can't. Yeah. Levy's just he won't budge. He should. Like, I would, if he go out and sign Jokeres, I would be building him a statue in the backyard. Like, oh my god, getting Jokeres.
And Kulu, the whole Swedish trifecta.
Yeah. If I feel like Jokeres will 100% come to us because of Wagwell and Kulu. I feel like Kulu would just give him a call because they're pretty sure they're mates on the same national team. I think like Kulu would just give him a call and say, "Yeah, it's great over here. Come be with us. It will be like trifecta of us and Bagwell." And I feel
Swedish
like
Mafia is what people have been wanting to build.
Yeah, hey, the Swedish players are smart. They fit Ainge's system. They are smart players, and they will. I feel like they'll do well. And I feel like if we go out and sign Jokeres, we won't need much more in that front line for me. I feel like another winger will give us that strength we need. I feel like the goals we conceded will decrease. I know that sounds funny, but most of the goals we conceded came from mistakes at the front and came from balls conceded up in the high, dangerous area of the pitch where we are at their door, but our backline is also up that pitch with them basically on the halfway mark and not backing down. So if we go up and get Jokeres, who could probably hold the ball up a lot better than a Son could do in the front, or Ribsy could do. I feel like we will do so much better and won't concede as many goals. And I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on the midfield because of what Ainge has been doing in the preseason. He's been playing Madison and Basuma in that midfield. But I feel like we already have a perfectly good midfield. If we really look at it, I feel like if we go by form, I feel that the people who should start and should be in the starting 11, it's Alfie Devine, Lucas Bargwell, and Archie Gray. Those have been for me the three best midfielders this season, this preseason. I thought like Alfie Devine has gone under the radar for a lot of fans this season, preseason. I feel like he hasn't got the applaudance he deserved. He's done so well in getting the ball into the box and driving at his opponents as a 18-year-old. I think he is. That's incredible for an 18-year-old to be doing. And Lucas Bargwell just been off the charts. Like Lucas Bargwell, what can you expect? And then there's
someone made a comment earlier on, just quickly, Eddie, on Lucas Bergvall, that maybe you can address. And just quickly, DJ AK makes a great point, and this is something I've said as well, that how good Harry Kane was. No matter whoever comes in is going to be a step down. I think we all agree with that. It's just about personal preference. Are you in Jokeres' camp, Tony's camp, Solanke's camp? Who do you feel is better? I do think we do have to wash our hands with that. It's going to be hard to replace Harry Kane. But hey, DJ, you know me. I tried to highlight that before we sold him. But, I was called a Kane lover instead of what was best for the club. Now, I think, on reflection, I think many people can agree. I said it because it's what's best for the club. DJ AK, big yourself up, my man. Great to see you. But there was also, lastly, just quickly, we'll add this time on. Don't worry about that, Eddie. Guys, I am going to take down the link now because we usually run this till about 9:30. We do have 1, 2, 3, 4 people in the background still after Eddie. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to make aware that you do want to come on or click that link and get in the background. After that, I will be taking it down. But Eddie, someone in the chat earlier on did say, Dave, Jack, what are you guys smoking? Bergvall, it's only preseason. It's hard to judge his ability. And to say that you think he is going to help this team going forward in the season, you can't really say that. What's your thoughts?
I feel like they just haven't watched Bergvall this preseason. He's been unbelievable. And people will say, oh, it's only against K-League and the J-League. He did it against Bayern Munich, and he did quite well. I feel like people... I also see people haven't mentioned that the fact that he slid in to keep the ball with him. Like he slide tackled the ball to keep it with himself. Which I just found funny and bold from a player to slide to keep the ball. Like I would do that at the Sunday League game. I would slide to keep the ball. And I just feel like it was really sold his character as a player. I feel like he is 100% ready to be in that starting 11 or be integrated into that sort of starting lineup or just on the subs. I feel like he deserves the chance and he will get the chance. I feel like he'll run the midfield this season. I feel like Madison, unfortunately, as much as I love him, he needs to be dropped. And I feel like Ainge will do it. I feel like Ainge, first game of the season, even though it's written in the stars for Madison to come on and bag a goal against Leicester, I feel like Ainge will drop him if he doesn't have an amazing game against Bayern Munich come the 11th of 11th for me, but 10th for you guys coming the next preseason game. And that is what's going to happen.
I would actually make the argument with you. I'd actually like to see Bergvall ahead of Madison in that midfield. But just to clarify, Eddie, many people want to know, are you saying that should be our starting midfielder, them three guys? Or are you saying that they should be integrated as midfield options for this upcoming season?
I feel like Bergvall and Gray, I feel like Bergvall should be in the starting 11. I feel like he should. Devine and Gray, I feel like Gray hasn't done as well as he did as a center back as he transitions into our CDM that we need. I feel like he had sold that well, but we'll see how he does in the last game and judge for ourselves if he deserves to be our starting 6 over Basuma. But I feel like Basuma has had a good preseason as our starting 6 as of this moment. He's done all right, but he hasn't blown my socks off. But Gray at the same time hasn't done the same in the 6th position, so we'll see. And Devine over Sarr, Bentancur, and Madison, I feel like he's definitely done better than Devine. I think Sarr has had a really not the best preseason. I feel like he's been a really rough preseason, but I feel like he should, just based on the form he's been on, should go above Papa Matasar. But I feel like it won't be the starting 11 against Leicester. It'll probably be Basuma, Madison, and Bergvall. I think those will be the 3 starting midfielders for that game. I don't see Devine making that starting 11 or Gray, unfortunately, because they just haven't done that well. Well, Devine deserves, but Gray hasn't done that well in the midfield so far this preseason. So we'll see what Ainge chooses for the Bayern Munich game first, and we'll judge what he sees, because I feel like that Bayern Munich game will give us the closest we'll see to our starting 11 than we will see at the Leicester game.
No, I agree with you on that. I think it'd be interesting. Basuma, if you notice, hasn't started DM in the last 2 games. Now, is that because Postecoglou is maybe thinking about giving Gray the opportunity, or does he just want to give Gray the opportunity and some minutes in the midfield? I think you're right, against Bayern Munich. That will definitely show us, who would probably start against Leicester. But Eddie, last question for you, just quickly, my man. no tifo for the North London Derby. It's decided that the club have maybe gone against it. They don't want one. I don't think the reasons are 100% sure. I think they sort of just said it's not the right game for it. Maybe they're afraid of all the paper airplanes. What's your thoughts on that decision? Because maybe am I old school expecting us to be able to, we should be allowed to, make a big, massive, intimidating atmosphere, put our colours everywhere, especially on the North London Derby Day.
It's despicable with the club. It's no backbone. They're too soft. I swear, people are too soft nowadays. Like, go a backbone, please. No, we should be allowed to express the way we want to feel at our own stadium against our own arch rival that is Arsenal. We should be able to express that, like, yeah, we hate these guys. We should be able to scare them into intimidation, scare those players into this is our stadium. If you want to get points here, come and take it from us. And
make the environment, toxic for them. Make it hard. Make them regret coming. Yeah, well said, Edward. Make the players regret coming here. We make the fans regret not. Make their fans be soft, not have much of a voice. Make it our stadium. Make it our fortress. That's what home stadiums are meant to be. They're meant to be fortresses. That's just the way I see it. I don't know if it's maybe just a Australian point of view. Like, whenever you go to a home stadium anywhere in Australia, whether it's cricket, AFL, baseball, anything, your home stadium is your fortress. You win there no matter what. You do not concede points. You do not lose. That's just how it is. So yeah, I just feel it's just no backbone by the club.
It comes back to that expression Gary Neville used when we absolutely brutalised them under Conte, isn't it? That Tottenham fan base absolutely brutalised Arsenal since he made that quote. That should be something we should be playing off every home North London Derby, I feel. But Eddie, the Eagle, thank you very much, my man. And I really appreciate your time this evening.
It's always a pleasure, Dave.
This morning for you.
Hey, this morning, it's 5:43. No, but it's always a pleasure, Dave, on this. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk to you and Jack, get some good, honest opinions from Spurs fans. It's just this is fun for me. I love talking to Spurs and football fans. It just brings me joy.
Have you been a pro at it, Edward, since coming on TIFO? And I think since then you've only gotten better and better. And also during this transfer anxiety period, thanks for putting on a brave face. Plenty of people might find it a bit intimidating to come on, with all the transfer kind of nuts, kind of stuff going on. And you put on a very brave face. Big up to you, Edward.
I try to not get too concerned with the transfers. I look at it, but I don't stress.
Good man, Edward.
We should all take that approach. We'd all be much happier people in life, Eddie.
Big up, Eddie.
Big yourself up, my man. See you soon.
And people in the chat seem to enjoy what you had to say. So big up to you, sir. Have a good rest of your day. See you, man.
See you, Eddie. Absolute legend. Really like Eddie. Some good things to say as well. So everyone, big up the Eagle in the chat there. Big up Eddie. Eugene, I did email you that link, my man. Sorry, I didn't realize. See, there's different levels of memberships. There's the flat cap, then there's the fan show and stuff like that. So it's the fan show one you need. But look, you did email me. I received it and I sent it back to you. So Eugene, make sure you get on and have a say. Big yourself up, my man. We've got this from Jerome. Says, I would rather sign Tony than Solanke. He's an average player and not quality like Tony. I mean, Jerome, make sure you watch the video coming out in the morning, which will be after evening for you. I'm sort of in the same camp as you, my man. I just think when you look at what Ivan Toney and DOMINIC SOLANKE bring, I think they bring similar attributes, but I think Tony excels at them attributes all across the board. I also think he's better at set pieces and penalties. I think where maybe it might not work to 100% is I think Solanke is more willing to sacrifice himself for the team in terms of the press and stuff like that, more than what Ivan Toney will. But I do agree with you. I think there's a reason why Tony's in the England squad, because he gives them a lot of what Harry Kane offers them. So I'm all in the Ivan Toney camp. I think what makes it more difficult now is the guy Igor that they brought in as his replacement is now injured. So the money that they're going to be looking for, they're going to look for a little bit extra on top to go and buy another striker to replace Toney, who would be their striker heading into the season. So that injury complicates it a little bit more. Also, Tony did say he wants to win trophies. Has Tottenham come to him and he's laughed and gone, hang on, guys, you guys ain't winning trophies. I'm not moving there. We don't know, but I do agree with you in terms of I would prefer Tony, Jack, what would you say to Jerome? Because you're in the Solanke case. Sell Solanke to him.
I'd love to have both, to be fair, or one or the other really is more realistic. But with the case of Dominic Solanke, I just don't really. I try to differentiate, the Dominic Solanke of old to the Dominic Solanke that I've seen of the last year and a half or so. I think I started to see a rejuvenation of him, kind of just a new man, really just a whole different player since Gary O'Neill came into charge at Bournemouth. And then what it really impressed me about Dominic Solanke was he had a very different style of play, very different responsibilities under O'Neill. And then Iraola came in and felt like he just all of a sudden came alive and actually kind of built off of that decent, half season under O'Neill, and then really just became one of the best English strikers from that last season. Not saying that's going to be the case forever, but he really was one of the better performing strikers from last year. And there's a lot about his game that I think does suit Ange Ball. He's a very physical guy. He actually has some of the most headers won of any of the Premier League strikers from last season. I think that's something that we could really take advantage of when we have those balls hit into the box, that sort of service into the penalty area. We are one of the highest, I think, crossing teams. We put in a lot of crosses into the box. That's something that Solanke does thrive on. Plenty of other strikers do, but something to note is that Bournemouth, I think, despite being more of a lower level Premier League side, I think something was like they had the third most crosses into the penalty area of any team in the Premier League just last season. And so if he's going to get that similar type of service with Spurs, one could argue that he would do pretty well in this system. And he works his tail off. Dave even, agrees with me on this. He's a good pressing striker who has no problem, despite being a big guy. It's hard to be a big 6'2", 6'3" striker and try to press, for 90 minutes, but he really doesn't have much problem with it, similar to a Richarlison. So for me, I think Dominic Solanke, it's hard to kind of, not think of the past of where he's failed on numerous occasions, hasn't ever really hit the heights that plenty of people thought he would. But I just try, at least to the best of my ability, look at the Dominic Solanke of old versus the Dominic Solanke of now. And I think there's a different player there now, a motivated player, someone that is starting to finally figure things out. Not saying he's going to be a star or he's going to be a legend or anything for the club, but I do think he is starting to figure things out and is practically entering into an important time of his career where he needs to put in consistent seasons and consistent output. And he clearly is a motivated guy and is going to try to continue that by pushing on to Spurs. He's not just settling for Bournemouth. He's not just sticking where he is, where he's comfortable. He's happy to move on to a similar system, to a similar type of a playing style, but play for an even bigger club where there's even more pressure and there's even less, kind of patience for those kind of bad seasons that he used to have in the past. So I'm a big Dominic Solanke fan. Would I pay 70 million for him? No. But do I think he's a good player? Yes. If you can understand that differentiation between the two.
Big up, Jerome. And I actually do have something I wanted to say, but he's put in another super chat and he sort of mentioned it, so I'm going to bring it up just quickly. We missed this. Kieran, 13, my man. Really appreciate it. Becoming a new YouTube member. Welcome to the community. Kieran is a great Irish name, and it's spelled that way as well. So fair play to you. You must be from Ireland. Big yourself up, my man, and really appreciate the support, lad. And welcome to the community, and hopefully you enjoy all of the members' content. There's plenty of members there that'll tell you we do various stuff for members. So hopefully you enjoy that, Kieran. Big yourself up, buddy. And then Jerome also says, Solanke is like a Johnson, decent for his team, but will be rubbish for Spurs. I am being harsh, but it feels like it would be the same. Hope he proves me wrong. And I actually sort of agree with this point to a large degree, Jerome. For me, Solanke's 26. You're not buying a player that's going to show anything different than what level he's sort of already at. It's just whether that season, last season, can continue on going forward or whether it reduces or drops. And if it does, then you've sort of, I would argue, wasted a lot of money. And I sort of question, with Richarlison, Werner and Johnson, who are not the most prolific or don't have the best of end product at times, are you adding to that problem by bringing in a Solanke? And are we going to go into a round where we're stockpiling average players in the forward in a certain area, and we're going to find it hard to improve in future because of the big transfers and the big wages we've shelled out on these guys, and we won't take no for an answer? That is a legitimate concern of mine by bringing in Solanke. Look, I don't hate Solanke. I think there are the right attributes there. For me, it's just about, is he going to deliver us enough goals and frequently enough to be able to help us get towards a title challenge, which I think is a huge missing piece and part of this puzzle. I don't have that faith in that guy. I think it's a huge gamble. So that's where I'm with you on this, Jerome, for sure, my man.
Yeah.
But look, like I always say, if Solanke comes in here, even though I don't think he's the best of signings that Tottenham could have done, I'm not going to put that on him. I'll put that on the board, but I will give Solanke a chance. So if that does happen, I don't want anyone to turn around and say, Dave, you're flip-flopping. I've made it clear my stance on it. If he comes in, I'll give the guy an opportunity, and my anger will be directed towards the board. So hopefully that clears that up. But Jerome, absolutely love the conversation, my man. Let me know your thoughts on it. You know, also I'd argue, is he better than Richarlison? Personally, I don't think he is either, Jerome. But big yourself up, my man. And I absolutely love that. Big up, Drum. And hopefully you have a great day over there in Australia. I know it's nice and early for you. So hopefully the sun comes out today. It's not too cold. And you and the family have a great day. And hopefully you have enjoyed yourself. And then we also have Kieran 13. Sorry, I was about to reduce the number there. How dare me? He says, happy to support you guys, balanced views, and great to listen to. Look, I really do appreciate that. And look, try to be balanced where we can. Sometimes, you know, me and Jack do have different opinions. And sometimes when I get a bit heated, I can, you know, maybe not be as balanced in the heat in a moment and stuff like that, Kieran. So I don't want you to think that it's always all going to be balanced in around match days. I'm very emotional and I'll say what I think. So if you do like the balance, maybe don't tune in on match days is what I would say. Tune in the rest of the week. Can't be any fairer than that, here. I'm not going to say you a lie, my man, you know. I'm not going to say you a lie, but really appreciate that, buddy. We do try. Well, I do try. I'll just give my opinion. If people think it's balanced, I suppose. But look, let's keep this moving. We've got 5 guests left, and these will be the last guests we will be taking this evening, everybody. And we've got Shawnee Maddox, we've got Ribsy, we've got Mr. Larson, we've got KPV, and we've also got Eugene, who I can't wait to speak to. Love speaking to new guests, new people, and let's hear what his opinions are and his point of view on everything is, which would be very, very interesting. So we'll save that to last. We'll keep the suspense. And plus, he was last in as well, but he will be the last guest closing off this evening. So let's bring it. Let's get it on. It's the one and only Mr. Maddox. How are you keeping, sir?
I'm doing well. Yeah, no, again, I think Jerome's comments came in at the perfect time because I have lots of opinions about
Yeah,
Solanke.
I saw. Tell us about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think initially there's definitely some disappointment just because of some of the other names that we've been linked to earlier in the window and how late this is coming in. But I think that maybe I was looking more so at his numbers, and he fits this system perfectly. So he might end up being a better option and definitely an improvement on Richarlison to a degree. But Dave, let me make the case for it. I know you're
no, I'm not shaking my head at you. I'm shaking my head to IrishHotspur. I don't know. I don't know the story, my man. That's all. But no, look, I'm going to give you an opportunity. You know, convince me on Solanke. I'm open to be convinced. By the way, I'm not closed on it.
Okay. No. So again, I think the first thing I was looking, he's got more pressures than pretty much any other forward in the Prem last season. And honestly, for Ange's system, it doesn't work if that press drops off. So I think the only forward with slightly more presses was Son at times. But Son never stopped running. And again, when Richarlison was playing well, and when he looked well, it was when Richarlison was available and could keep that press going. So finding another striker with that same work ethic in the press, I think will be pivotal to making this system work effectively, because we have to be winning that ball higher up the pitch. But more importantly, I was looking at his goal numbers are matching up really well with his XG. So he's not missing a significant amount of chances that he should be taking. And I was also looking, again, he had the 19 goals last season. Before that, he had like a 15 goal and a 20 goal, or I think it was like 30 goals, or pretty high goal outputs in those championship seasons. Again, he had that dip the prior season, but the XG was down. Bournemouth's overall XG was down, and I think it had more to do with Bournemouth was awful. the year before last in that 22-23 season. So again, if he has no chance creation, he can't do much on his own. And again, I think they drastically improved the quality of that Bournemouth team last year versus the prior season. So again, I think that dip was kind of coinciding with Bournemouth being awful entirely, rather than him individually underperforming.
Do you think
again he couldn't? Again, he is not the type of striker necessarily that can go pick the ball up in midfield and create all of his own chances. But that's not what he's supposed to do in this Ange ball system. He's supposed to sit in that final third, win the ball up high, and get service. And again, he's got the physical attributes, I think, to do that job better than Son in terms of through the center. But he's got the same work ethic and the pressing as where we've been most effective.
I think. Yeah. Oh, go on.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I think the pressing point is an absolutely fantastic point. You know, it is something that, you know, we did lack without Richarlison. There was a lot of sort of lack of intensity, and it makes Weir easier to play through because you're allowing teams to build up their moves from the back. When Richarlison's there, because the intensity of the press, he almost forces the goalkeeper to go long a lot of the times if everyone else presses up with him, and it means we can recycle ball a lot quicker. I think that is a fair point, and I do agree with you. I think Solanke is more willing to do that a lot more than Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney's probably at the age where he's actually looking to conserve himself out of possession so that he has more energy when the ball comes his way. I agree with you on that point. I'm just more concerned about the finishing. I know what you're saying about the XG and stuff like that. I'm just really concerned about the finishing. But sorry, before I cut you off, continue to make your point, my man. You're doing an all right job selling them, you know?
I mean, again, I think we'll kind of see where his numbers are. I don't know exactly. I didn't see exactly the full clinicalness of the numbers when I was looking on FBref, kind of his stats and Bournemouth stats. But from what I could see, he was at least performing at XG, which suggests he's a reasonably clinical striker. Because I think Richarlison was below XG because he kept skying easy chances and a few others. And again, what that means is that what we're relying on is chance creation, which means that it's kind of, that's where you need those midfielders and wingers to step up and create more chances to a degree. Because again, I think he's shown that he can put the ball in the back of the net at this level somewhat consistently. So now it's about getting in the players around him to improve. And again, I think that's also where in a possession-based system where the quality of the team is improved can help him improve or maintain that output.
I think this is something that you actually answered what I was going to ask you earlier on, Sean, is like, is Solanke just like a lot of strikers? Then we don't always take this into account. A lot of strikers are just dependent on the service that's provided. You know, they can't do it entirely on their own. There's some strikers who kind of can, where they can, like you say, drop into midfield, kind of get onto the ball, make things happen that way. But there are plenty of strikers who can't do that. And that's perfectly fine, right? There are different types and there are different types of molds of one. It's Solanke, like you say there, might be one that's a bit different to an Ivan Toney, a bit different to a Harry Kane, where he doesn't have that quality to drop deep like that, make things happen. But what he can do is that if you give him enough service, he will provide you goals. And we're just going to see if that can happen in an Ange Postecoglou system. Do you think Iraola's style of play is anything different from Ange's in a big way, or do you think there's a lot of similarities there?
Honestly, I didn't watch very much of Bournemouth. So I don't have too much commentary on their specific style. Most of my analysis was statistically driven. Because those were easier numbers to kind of get an idea of, okay, how much is this forward running, etc. But one thing I did see is that they were at least pressing higher up the pitch on average in kind of that Bournemouth system. And again, I think just that mentality in terms of putting in the defensive shifts there. And again, Solanke had some okay assist numbers, which meant he at least looked up from time to time to try and make an assist. And if you put better players around him, that he can pass the ball to. Like, again, it's easier to get an assist if Son is on your left wing because he can do a lot more than whoever Bournemouth likely had as an option. So I don't think he's not necessarily incapable of providing a few assists. But again, as long as he can kind of create that threat from inside, run like a madman, that'll help a lot in this system. And that means that maybe in the winter or next summer, we can look to move Richarlison on and bring in another striker. See where any of our other options are at that point.
Look, I think there's no doubt about it. I think I'd score goals in this system up front, to be honest. If I put myself, in between the penalty area and the 6-yard box, I think I'll get a few opportunities every single game. I think everyone is going to score goals in this system. I'll worry about when teams figure out, if we do bring in Solanke, at some point they're going to figure out a way to maybe try and neutralize that. Does he then have the nous and the ability to start helping in the other aspects of the game, which is being able to link up with people, play 1-2s with people, get on the ball, play others through? I just feel like that maybe is lacking. I think we'll probably enter the realm of another Werner and Johnson, where I think we've already got two wingers where you have to provide them opportunities. They're not going to provide you opportunities. And I do think Solanke is one of them. When I look at a lot of his goals last season for Bournemouth, a lot of them are him being in between the sticks and sort of being in there, being a poacher and stuff like that, which you do need in this team. I just worry about the rest of the play that comes with it. And that's where, to Cinemar's point, where I think we do need someone like an Ivan Toney. But ideally, maybe a Gyökeres would be the actual perfect one, because he will go and press as well. And he could do everything Toney and Solanke could do. That would be perfect. But Cinemar, I just want to say, I'm not going to fight with anybody over Solanke. I'll give my opinion. People can agree with it or disagree with it, and I think everybody else is entitled to their opinion, and people can agree with it or disagree with it. One thing I'm not going to do is sit here and have a full-blown argument with Shawnee Maddox or Jack over their opinion for Solanke. It's not going to happen. I'm okay with people having opinions, it's fine.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's maybe better arguments to have for hours than maybe over someone like a Solanke, I think. And
if it was Harry Kane, I'd argue all day long. He's worth it. Solanke is not.
And I really also realized how much of a loser I am. The fact that I do actually have probably watched a lot of Bournemouth last season, compared to maybe Sean, who ended up, having probably better things to do with his time. But Shawnee, you did mention wingers, or at least at some point, I think you probably do want a winger this summer. And looks like Pedro Neto, the sources that we kind of read from the articles and from Paulo Keefe, etc., those sort of ITKs, Pedro Neto might be the winger. Is he a right choice for us on the right wing or the other wing? What do you make of Pedro Neto?
Yeah, no, don't sign him. He's Lo Celso 2.0, Sessegnon.
Wow.
The guy doesn't have any availability. We don't need anyone else. Our medical staff cannot keep players on the field.
But people made the point, though, Shawnee.
Biggest waste. It doesn't matter. It would be Wolves couldn't keep him on the field. It'd be the biggest waste of 60 mil. We might as well just light the money on fire on a live stream at that point. Again, I was pulling up his stats for games played. He's played about 38% of the available minutes in his Wolves career. Again, I think last season he was at about 44%. I think the season before that he was in like the 20s. Again, we don't need players, no matter how good they are, if they're not available.
Fair.
At that point, we haven't signed anyone, and we're relying on the same players. Again, I would rather take a slightly worse player who is not constantly injured. So again, if a starter gets injured, then we have a player available, and we're not putting too much pressure on our youngsters or our fringe players that we know that aren't good enough to perform and carry the team. It just doesn't make enough sense. I think it's a bad gamble. Again, I think there are times when there's a smart gamble. It's not like he had an injury history 2 years ago and has had a relatively clean season and it's trending up. He was recently injured again. He just doesn't. Again, we had this problem with Sessegnon. He was never available. Every time he looked like he might be healthy again, he would get injured. And then we didn't have a left back.
I think it's many people's concerns when it comes to that. Well, actually, I don't think there's any doubt about the ability. I think that many people share your concern. It's about the availability of the guy, and that's maybe it is a huge concern, because if he does go out injured, you're still back to Brennan Johnson, and no one wants to see him for a run of 12 games on the bounce, or even longer than that. So I think a lot of people probably do share them frustrations. I know Ribsy does. He'll probably come on and expand on it shortly, so he will, on the fragile players. But look, there's no doubt he's a player there, and I think if he is available, I think he solves an option. I think he's actually a very exciting option. But like you said, it's just down to injury, and I'm trying to work out, is it because Wolves, because of their need to get their best players on the pitch to fight relegation a lot of the times and stuff like that, have they, brought them back early and stuff like that? At Tottenham, will they give him a bit more time? I suppose time will only tell. But Shawnee, last question for you, my man, before we end off. North London Derby, it looks like the club has refused a tifo in the South Stand. What's your thoughts?
I don't go to the South Stand. It won't impact me in any way at all. Again, I don't hate the idea of tifos. I just don't think that that's what we should be concerned about as a club. We have much bigger problems that we need to sort out rather than a South Stand tifo. And again, I feel like tifos don't add that much to the atmosphere compared to even like the drummer or some of the other kind of things that can get going on. Again, I think there's a lot of potential ways to work on the atmosphere. And I don't think not having a tifo means we can't find a different alternative. Again, the fans are creative. Just come up with some new song that absolutely ridicules Arsenal and motivates the players.
Well, you mentioned the drummer there. I know he was absent for a couple of games towards the end of last season because they didn't have a spare drum. So I hope that they've got a new drum for the guy. And, I wonder what they're going to do with the guy that plays that musical instrument. What's it called? Trumpet or whatever. What are they going to do with him this year for North London Derby? Because last year they had him up there starting with the cockerel. So, this year I think they have to up their game. I wonder, will they, drop him in?
Give him a jetpack
or something like that.
Well,
yeah, give him a jetpack.
I mean, without the tifo, there's that much more space.
True.
Get like 3 trumpets in there.
Yeah,
Choir.
me and Jack will add to it. I'm not sure it'll be in sync. But Shawnee, big yourself up, my man. Great calling. Really appreciate it. And we'll speak again very, very soon.
Yeah, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you
Class
Spurs.
act. Big up, Shawnee.
Class act. And by the way, thank you to Shawnee as well. Being the leader on the members, sending in their fan cams after games. He's took the lead on that. So fair play to Mr. Maddox. And a great call. Maybe not as happy-clappy about Neto as some other people. So let us know.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me. But
that surprised me.
I think you might have mentioned that in the last fan show, if I'm trying to remember correctly. But yeah, I was surprised to hear that. Big hot take from Sean. I like it.
Absolutely love it. And Ribsy's questioning, can we afford 3 trumpets? I suppose not if we're trying to shell out 68 million on Solanke. You'll probably have to trade off 2 trumpets and a drum, to be brutally honest with you, Ribsy, on that one. But look, guys, let's keep this moving because we are getting into the rounds of everyone getting hungry and needing sleep. So let's keep it moving. I believe the next one we have is Mr. Larson. Are you there, my man? Yes, he is. Let's bring him in here. Daniel, how are you keeping, sir?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, look.
You sounded like Dave in the private chat saying it's roasting, for you in Norway. So
it's absolutely, I can't. I'm struggling to wear a shirt. Jesus Christ.
That's one country that's off my list. I thought Scandinavia was relatively cool, so I'm going to have to think of a new boy to get away from this heat. To be
it's global warming, so none can escape it anyway. So.
Well, are you feeling hot about Solanke, or are you not? Are you feeling cold?
Yeah. I got no feelings really. It's not doesn't
made you feel dead inside.
Well, not that bad. But I just don't. It's not for me really.
No,
because for me, it's not better than Richie. It might be on the same level. And for me, if we're gonna sign the striker, it gotta be much better. I mean, at least better than Richie.
Yeah,
my opinion.
That's a commonly held opinion, I think, of the fan base, is that he's not that convincingly better than Richarlison. And what's the
No.
point then of signing someone who's about as good as Richarlison? Do you feel like Tony, the other striker we'd been rumored with, is far better?
Yeah, he's I think proven that he's just a really just out and out striker that we need, target man that can hold up the ball and score lots. I mean, goals, and yeah, just think that should be. I mean, if we 65 million for Solanke, why can't we? I mean, if Tony, I don't know how much, 70 maybe, 80. Why can't we just pay that for him then? I struggle to understand that.
If the club,
I know he's got.
If the club are willing to pay 68 million for Solanke, and if they are selling Emerson to AC Milan, it frees up a foreign spot in the squad. Should they stretch the extra and go for Gyökeres?
Yeah, to be fair about Gyökeres, I don't know too much about him, sadly, so I don't know how good he is really. So I can't say too much about him.
Well, I'll pivot my question then. Look, there's a lot of talk about strikers and the need for a striker. At this point, because it's been left so late, does it actually really matter if we have one in by Leicester or not?
Well, I think so. I think the sooner we get it anyway, like the better. If we get like deadline day striker, I think that's the worst way to do it, because then of course he has to hit the ground running really. And for me, a player, especially striker, needs time, in my opinion, in a team like this to get adjusted, and all of a sudden if it comes late, like a deadline day for say, all of the fan base will maybe be very impatient, and could be bad for him.
Have you watched many of the preseason games, Daniel?
I think just the Bayern, I think.
Any white flags from that game?
Yeah, I mean, the first half was pretty poor, I would say. I mean, for me, preseason is, I'm not going to go too far. No, I didn't know it was Swedish.
You don't want the Swedish mafia in.
No, please. I mean, Bergwall is, I think, going to be one of my favorite players if he continues how he is. I mean, he's the bright spark from this preseason, I would say. Like, we really hit the jackpot on him. Of course, I'm not going to be completely put pressure on him and say that, oh, this season is going to be amazing. I still don't think so. It still needs to be squad rotation and earn his place in the team. But yeah, I think there's a player there.
Some have said in the chat that we were going too far on Bergvall. Would you say that he's impressed you enough though to get his spots in the team, or do we have to wait a little bit and kind of hold our horses?
No, I definitely think he should be in the squad. I don't think he should be loaned out or anything. I definitely think on the bench regularly, I think.
And sorry, Dave, I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was going to ask you about Mikey Moore. Reports came out today that he's due to sign a 3-year extension on Sunday when he turns 17. Do you think that's a great bit of business by the club, being able to fend off the interest there? Do you think they deserve a small bit of praise for it?
100%. I think that was the one player, or youth player, we needed to tie in. Him and Will Lancashire, I would say, as well. I mean, Moore looks like, as well, one of those that's going to be big. Yeah. I mean, 16 still. I don't know if he's 17 now, but still,
Turned 17 on Sunday, Daniel, so you can wish him happy birthday.
Wow. Yeah. Happy birthday, Mickey. That's great.
No excuse for any Spurs fans not to wish him happy birthday. Now I've told everybody when his birthday is. Daniel, what about Pedro Neto? Have you any particularly strong feelings on that signing? It does look like, if you're looking at some of the content that's been creeping out tonight, it's Pedro Neto related. They probably know something we don't. I mean, any strong feelings on that signing?
I agree with Sean, really. I think, there's, of course, quality player, no doubt of his quality, but his injury records is not good enough, sadly. And already come to a club like us, who knows with injuries. Yeah. I mean, first game is going to pull up the hamstring, be out for 6 months, So I just think the risk there is too much.
Well, the medical staff needed a Lo Celso replacement of some kind, so they could be buddies with on the injury table. Yeah, maybe Neto's going to be that guy, for them. He could compete though with the Brennan Johnson, right? And I'm not sure how you feel about Brennan Johnson, Daniel, but that should be good competition, right? Someone who to push him for that spot.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, Brendan's he's just very frustrating player, of course. Hopefully he can do something this season, But I think Dave said it's an impact player coming in from the bench.
Mhm.
So sadly for me, not Neto to be the one. I mean, Essay for me would be the perfect, but I don't think that's gonna happen, sadly. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think other players we're gonna sign any in that position. So
is it disappointing to see us shell out so much money for Solanke but not for Eze?
Yeah, I think Eze is already proven, even though he's not a striker, but he's proven at that position up front that he's an absolutely amazing player, and he's ready for that step up to a club like us. And also with Solanke, actually, I mean, he's already been at Chelsea and Liverpool and couldn't quite make it. I know that he was younger, and then of course he goes to Bournemouth, and of course he almost finds level. I would say maybe. So
but it's not much higher than Bournemouth, you feel like.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, if he comes, I hope to be completely proven wrong, of course. But yeah, it's just I don't feel it in my soul. I just don't feel, sadly.
Plenty of people felt that way about Richarlison, Daniel, right? Where they kind of said like, he's okay, but he's kind of Everton's level. It's something similar I'm getting from you with Solanke, where he's all right, but he's not exactly Spurs' level or what we require.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And with the midfield, man, what about Maddison? How do you feel about him going into this season? Dave and I, of course, along with Brennan Johnson, have had some criticisms of him.
Yeah.
Do you feel like he can get back to his best? That's a guy that we shelled out like £50 million for, let's remind you, last summer.
I mean, he's got a huge to prove this season. He's got to step up massively. I mean, if he wants to be that, he wants to be the focal point of this club. He wants to be the main player, I feel, at this club. Well, you got to prove it then.
Yep.
I mean, for me, it seems to just be lazy almost, and just doesn't want to get into challenge. Maybe he's afraid to get injured. I don't know. There's something really off.
I think he just thinks he's better than what he is. I think, he's one of them. He's got a lot of yes men around him. I think if Maddison really wanted to be that guy this season, he would have came back and shown a lot more urgency or a lot more in terms of preseason. I also feel like he's a bit of a prima donna. I think as soon as he gets tapped, he's rolling around, looking to be taken to the local hospital, slow the game down, let's scan on Maddison and get him back on the football pitch. I think he slows a lot of things down. A question, should he also be in the leadership group for that midfield as well? But that's just my opinions on Maddison. Hopefully Bergvall can hunt him down, because it will click with Maddison eventually, and we'll get a much better player from him. So let's wait and see on that regard when it comes to Maddison. Daniel, last question for you. Tottenham's decision not to allow a tifo in the South Stand. And K32, some people have been asking what a tifo is. So basically, when you see in certain games, everyone in the South Stand holding up something, and it's like, I think the most latest one was Tadaris to do, and everyone's holding up a piece of paper. It's basically thousands of little pieces of paper for every fan that make up a big sign in the South Stand. It looks great, I think. So that's what a tifo is. But Daniel, Tottenham don't want one for the North London Derby. Why?
Yeah. Why? Why? I mean, what's going on? I mean, is that the highest priority, really? That's what we. Signings.
They chose that over the signings.
No, yeah. No. We can't have anything. Any signs? I just don't. I mean, I don't understand.
Yeah,
that's very bizarre. I mean,
and all it's going to do, especially around transfer window, is piss fans off even more, right?
Yeah, I think they want to do. I think that there's some story. I think there's something in the club maybe to how do we piss off fans the most, and they get off on that. I think.
Edward kind of put it, Daniel. Edward kind of put it like, just it feels like clubs nowadays, they just don't really allow that sort of room for freedom, of like fan expression and that type of thing. And it's kind of a sad state that we're in, that if that's the case, where clubs kind of dictate how the fans can express themselves in that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you can't I mean, we can't hold a sign up to say, okay, you want to support, to cheer the club on. I mean, what are we going to do? Sit there with twiddling our thumbs?
Yeah.
Be
I
silent?
mean, Dave would get kicked out for screaming moon boots probably at this stage. He'd
Just
be
imagine-
arrested.
Just imagine if we held up a big teeth on the south stand, welcome to the war zone or something like that, and the Arsenal players have to face that before the game, or they're trying to attack that half, and the fans are boisterous. It's going to put them all off. We've seen how rattled they were in the All or Nothing documentary. Their legs were shaking. I remember pinpointing it. Their legs were shaking with the atmosphere from that game and stuff like that. I think it's a bad decision, personally. I also would like to say it's our stadium. If we want a tifo, we should be allowed it. But Daniel, thank you very much for your time this evening, sir. And hopefully, you can find somewhere a bit cool in Norway, my man, for the foreseeable.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we gotta go on, the cooler, be in the cool room.
Going to the walk-in,
you're
I know at your
chef,
kitchen,
don't
right?
stand in the fridge.
Yeah, walking. That's one. But
You're a chef. Go and
yeah,
walk into the fridge and cool down.
yeah, I had to do that today. Jesus Christ.
But
Being
Daniel,
in the kitchen makes it even worse. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
black and white.
absolutely. I mean, it's whoa.
especially with all the ovens as well, and they're all high powered. When you open them, the heat, it's insane. It's insane. But Daniel, I do not envy you, my man, and keep feeding the world. You're doing a great job, and we'll see you again soon, brother.
Thank you. You too. Take care, guys. Talk to you.
Have a good night, Daniel.
You enjoy
Stay
yourself.
cool, buddy.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Big up.
Good night.
Let's help a fellow Spurs fan out, guys. If you've any tips on how a great way to cool down in this weather, put it in there and let's give them to Daniel, who is a man in need. Big up, Daniel, and guys, give him a lot of praise in the chat. But look, let's keep this moving. I believe the next one we have in line is Ribsy, then KPV, and then
No, it's
Eugene.
KPV next, then
KPV,
Ribsy.
and then Ribsy, and then Eugene. All right, let's get him on. Here he is. What's his name? Vinicius Jr., Mr. Champions League. You're a Madrid fan now, KPV?
Ballon d'Or.
Yeah, what's up, boys?
You're a Real Madrid fan now, are you?
I'm both because I don't like Liverpool because they can't beat Real Madrid. So I like Real Madrid as well. That's why I've got a Vinny Jr. Real Madrid shirt.
Yeah, I've seen you with that on, all right. I've seen you with that. Look, you're allowed a Madrid shirt, I suppose, as long as it's not another English club shirt. We'll let you away with it, KPV. But look, what's your thoughts on DOMINIC SOLANKE, my man? He seems to be a bit of an unpopular opinion in the Spurs fan base right now.
Like another Chelsea reject and another Liverpool reject. Like Chelsea reject, Liverpool reject. Like I don't know if I want him. Like I wouldn't mind him, but don't know about that. Like I don't know
What striker would you like to see?
I want probably Ivan Toney, who played for Peterborough and Newcastle. Like, yeah, he's played for them clubs who've been relegated from their respective leagues. And I wouldn't mind Toney, but him saying he's not going to come to us because we don't win trophies, like, never bring that up. Dyer's the one that's laughed about it 2 seasons ago. And, like, you don't laugh because Eric Dyer and that met this guy in, I think it was on a pre-season or something. They met him.
Yeah.
And Harry Kane, Dyer and Doherty met him, a pizza guy. Like, you don't laugh. And he's gone to Munich. But Solanke, I probably don't blame people in the chat saying we don't want him. I don't blame him. I'd rather go for Toney. Like, apparently I heard he has his move. He has eyes on his move to Tottenham, is what I saw. So, yeah, like, he did score against us earlier this year at Tottenham Stadium, and Mopey, being the scumbag that he is, doing Maddox celebration. Like, he sent 2 goals and Madison got relegated. Like, a wind-up merchant, mate.
Yeah.
Like, he always scored against Arsenal for Brighton, and that's when I did like Mopey, but him being the scumbag that he is, like, just wait till this season, Mopey. You're getting your ass kicked. It's by Tottenham again, and Vicario is not going to let any goals in. But yeah, I go for Toney, and obviously everyone. I want to thank them for their support after what I've been going through with Katie, and yeah, because I saw her again and she followed me again. So obviously I've had to deal with issues with that because
Mm.
it was going so well, but then she decided to screw it up. Now I'm on my own, so I'm just
You're
a
never on
single
your own,
man.
KPV. You have the whole millions of Spurs fans worldwide with you, my man. You're never on your own, buddy.
Yeah, like
Just remember
yeah,
that.
and yeah, I watched a few preseason games, and we beat that K League team. We beat under Conte. We won
Mm.
6-3. Son, was it Kane scored from a free kick or Son? I think it was Son scored from that free kick. We won 6-3 in Korea. So we beat this team again, and
Was
we
that not
lost
the
the
one under
final.
Conte, KPV?
Yeah,
The
it
most
was.
recent one was 4-2.
That was
Or
4-3,
4-3.
wasn't it?
4-3, sorry,
Yeah,
yeah, 4-3.
yeah. The season, yeah, under Conte when we
Mm.
signed Basumo with Charlton and that we
Mm.
lost. Yeah, we beat that team 6-3, and I believe Richarlison scored a hat trick in that game, if I'm not wrong. But at least and then yeah, we didn't do great. We had the best start, and then he goes, and yeah, like this
Mm.
team, we always seem to beat. So, and we've got Bayern Munich at home this weekend. I don't want to repeat of that big scoreline we suffered because they've
Yeah.
got that ex-Guna, Gnabry, who I can't stand. He's probably going to score, but I heard Harry Kane's going to take part.
Yeah,
So,
he's returning.
and Eric Dyer is. So, them two going to be interesting. So, revenge, because we beat them in the Aldi Cup at their ground. So, that's the only time but we beat them.
Mm.
I believe we beat them. We won the UEFA Cup in 1984. We beat them, and it was Graham Roberts scored a stunner. So yeah, I so we need to beat them. I don't
Mm.
want us to lose to them 4 times because they seem to be our bogey team. But we must win on Saturday. I
Yeah.
don't want to lose. Son and Kim and Dyer had a little bromance after the game. Neuer as
Mm.
well, lucky, but yeah, needs
Mm.
to get some revenge for that big home defeat under Poch. It was.
Yeah.
Why would
Yeah,
you
that was
get
a nightmare. Harry Winks in the midfield getting picked time and time again. An absolute nightmare. I was trying to eradicate their memories, KPV. Now I'm going to go to bed with nightmares. So thank you very much on that, my man. And KPV, last question for you, my man. Neto, would you like him as a Tottenham signing? Pedro Neto from
Yeah,
Wolves?
why not? And Portuguese player, and yeah, why not? And yeah, why not? Would be great. And I don't think he's ever scored against us. He's never scored, so that's a good thing. But
Are you worried
if
about his injuries?
yeah, I am worried about his injuries because he's always injured. Like other
Mm.
players you've had always seem to be injured. He's a bit like Ray Rooney, who was injury prone once before, but went injury free. And if if he doesn't get injured, like that season under Conte, we beat Arsenal 3-0 at Tottenham. Kane did
Mm.
not get injured. That was the first time. And yeah, I wouldn't mind Neto, but I hear the club don't want us a tifo at the North London derby. Like
Yeah, what's your
disgrace,
thoughts, man?
disgrace, man. Like why? Like it's our stadium and we should be allowed to. Like we had it when we battered them lot 3-0 on the 12th of May 2022, and we tore them apart on that Thursday night football. And
Mm.
Kane got 2, Storm got 1, and we absolutely battered them on the lane, and they just couldn't handle us. Kulu with his pace, and Bentancur with the defending, and Royale missed a great chance. And if he
Mm.
scored that, then we would be talking about probably I don't know probably one of the great North London derby goals. But there's
Mm.
a couple that stand out for me. Got to go David Bentley Kane.
Oh, what a cracker, lad. That
Yeah,
was a screamer. I'll never forget that.
you want to see George Achillio try to recreate that. Go on with our Tottenham TV, and you'll see expressions recreating Harry Kane's goal against the Scum. Go on those channel, people. Watch that game. Watch that goal, because I watched it, and he takes his shirt off. Nice one, expressions. But yeah, like, why the club not letting us have a tifo? I went for a tour around that stadium on the day of the final of the Euros, and it was pretty fun.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I've been
Mm.
there. I've been there for like the third or fifth time, I think. And yeah, the referee who robbed us against Sporting was refereeing some of the games at the Euros. So this referee, I don't want him refereeing our games in the Europa League, because I know he's going to rob us again. If we get Sporting Lisbon, I think they won the Portuguese league, and they're probably going to finish third in their group anyway. You heard it here first, and we'll probably get them in the next round. There, he's going to probably beat that ref and rob us again. Like Poro, I think, played brilliant against us when we got him from there, and he absolutely tore us apart at the top. And I know it was a draw at home, but we should have won that game, because if people watch that game back, it came off a Sporting player first, not Kane. And big up to Hoiberg for not shaking that referee's hand, because I'm not shaking the hand. Like, I would have not shook that referee's hand, because it's a disgrace. Like, watch the game back, people. I watched it, and we were robbed. Like, this season, we better not be robbed, because I know VR is always on our side, and we've got games to look forward to. Man City, that's probably going to be, because the thing I don't understand is, why did our fans want us to lose? Yeah, we didn't want Arsenal in the league, but I don't care. Like, I always loved to beat City, and that's what really annoyed me. Like, why would we want our own team to lose? If you watch the video, Ben and Tim doing the preview lineup, they put me up top, and they put you two in defence. So
I know.
Yeah,
I was shocked.
That's where I belong. I
KPV.
belong as the backup right back, I think,
Yeah.
amongst the Spurs YouTubers.
they put me, Daigle, and Expressions as the front three. Like, I could score
Solid
at
front
least 10
three.
goals against Arsenal, City, or Liverpool, and the big games to look forward to. And FPL is back, people. Hope you've done your teams. Next weekend, the league starts, but we play on Monday, and Harry Winkerbell is returning, but we'll away to Leicester. And
Forgot about that. It is true.
Harry Wink. Yeah, Wink. Like, we've got him, and he even got it right. He wanted us on the opening day. Your dream came true, he missed out. Like, you're not going to score, because you'll get a brilliant reception. Harry Kane also played there, so, but I'm afraid I got some bad news for Mr. Wink. You're going to lose, mate. But Jamie Vardy always seems to score. But sorry,
Yeah.
Jamie, you're going to lose, pal. Big Ange is going to do you in. And I want to say rest in peace to Craig Shakespeare. Got saddened about that. He won the league with Leicester. And then, yeah, everyone sends the love. And I want to say, yeah, great. Yeah, he was an assistant, and then, yeah, Ranieri was sacked afterwards, and he took over. Then he was manager when City got 100 points, and Leicester actually were winning at the Emirates on the opening day. I was out, but I checked the score, but yeah, Leicester have had some great players, and they've got some, but I think Vardy remains their only player from their entire winning team. But yeah, bring that game on. I'll be at the disco, and obviously, I know she's gonna be there, but I'm gonna stay away from her, because anyway, people, I'm off to listen to Let the Dogs Out, as David said before that Leicester game when we won 3-2.
Remember to let out some extra dogs for the first game of the season, KPV. You can let out fewer with the later games, but the first game of the season's got to be plenty.
Big Ange did.
Yeah.
Next up, my man Ribsy, you're up next, my friend.
Nice job,
You go.
KPV. Classy
KPV,
man.
remember, you're never alone. You've got the whole millions of Spurs fans with you. We absolutely love you, my man.
All right.
Legend,
see you. Have a good
KPV.
day.
Class act. Have a good night, man.
Night,
See you,
guys.
KPV.
See you, mate.
See you,
Yeah.
KPV.
Bye.
Right. What an absolute legend KPV is. What a bundle of joy. It's great to have him back around, especially in these times of tension. And KPV, you go to that disco, my man. You do every single one of us proud. You bust out them Michael Jackson moves. I know you have locked up in there.
Burner on the dance
Absolute
floor is what
legend.
he's going to be doing when he's
Yeah.
on the at the DJ. He's going to be
walking
Vinny
across.
on the dance floor. Ballon d'Or level moves.
Ugh.
Ballon d'Or level moves.
Love it.
Keep the show moving though, and we were introduced already by KPV, or he's introduced, sorry, the next guest in line. We have 2 left, everyone, so please give them a good listen. They are the last 2. They're going to be our closers, Ribsy and then Eugene making his debut. So let's go up to Ribsy first though.
Comes from a land down under. How are you, sir?
Not bad, lads. G'day. Good morning. Well, good morning for me. How you guys going? It's been a long show.
First time you ever got introduced by DJ KPV. You got
I don't
introduced.
think
love
it
that.
is the first time. I think he's done that for me before. I've got a vague memory of it. But yeah, no, it would have been years ago. So no,
It's
good
the
on
new
you. It was
Kane and
good call
Son
from-
partnership.
I haven't seen KPV on here for a long time, so
Yeah.
it was good. And his usual reclined posture there. He's making me feel like a stiff, man.
So relaxed. So relaxed. I absolutely love it. You know, I wish I could be in that state of relaxation, to be brutally honest with you. I really do. What a bundle of joy he
The
is.
Irish Hotspur live from the bedroom. Let's do it. man.
Yeah, Dave leaning on the couch.
Sadly, I
That'd be
don't think that's anything anyone wants to see, especially around mealtime or anything like that, you know. You never know, actually. You never know. There might be a few people out there that might. You never know, I suppose. I don't want to put myself completely down. But Ribsy, my man, I mean, look, what's your thoughts on everything that's going on around the club right now? The striker situation, Solanke to not Solanke. I mean, what's your thoughts?
Man, we had a conversation just before on the fan show, just before the Melbourne end of season friendly, where you asked me that exact question. And I said at that time, out of what we're looking at, I think Gyökeres is probably the best option that we've got. I've been watching in the chat. I've been watching on this show. I've been watching in the news. I've been watching just the complete circus around it, this transfer window. All of the people that generally have some sort of idea what's going on in the club have no idea whatsoever. And whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I have no idea. It's uncharted territory. It's kind of funny watching everyone sort of flounder around, like saying, "Oh, we're looking at this player, and then we're looking at this player," and you just realize how full of crap so many of these people are, because no one has any idea. And even if we were looking at all those players and they all turned us down, what the hell's going on? We've gone from when our club was in kind of trouble recruiting, and we had Nuno as a manager, and we re-signed Son, and in that same window, didn't we sign Romero?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell can we get a player like Romero when we're literally like looking like a mid-table club?
Yeah.
And now that we look good, how is it that it's a problem? I don't understand that. And it just is the temperature of the window, right? It's just sometimes those leagues are looking, like a player like Romero at that time maybe wasn't going to get the money that he wanted in Italy, and the Premier League looked like the clear option for him, and maybe that's changed a little bit over time, but I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't sign a striker at all at this point. I know that the fans would literally riot.
Yeah.
But I just wouldn't be surprised, because I just have no idea. There's no, and I think anyone who says that they have an idea at the moment is exactly the kind of person that you should just plain ignore, because it's clear that no one does at this point.
That's the power strategy that he was able to bring a guy like that, Romero. But also, I think that was kind of the power strategy in that he had these kind of just players that I guess were loyal to him or something. That's what also made it kind of funny with
Mm.
Romero, is that was his baby that he brought over to Juventus, and then he just took him with him as like a party package to Spurs with us. I hope that Johan Lange
That's
could
true.
have done that for us with some of his own signings, but turns out he didn't. What do you like Dominic Solanke, though? We've kind of compared him to Ivan Toney, Ribsy, and that's like the two strikers that Spurs, I guess, were probably the most interested in, the homegrown type of ones. What is it about Solanke that people don't like, and what is it about Ivan Toney that people do like? Why is it that Ivan Toney, do you think, is so much more preferred by the general fan base?
That's a good question. Ivan Toney's like got more than one performing season under his belt, right? I guess. As Solanke, it really feels like this is a guy who's had one good season, and now suddenly he's worth 60 million or whatever. And that a lot of people just immediately have a reaction to that. That's like, well, is he really? Because we haven't truly seen that yet. And it'd be great. Like if we bought him for 60 million, he came in and scored 20 odd goals or whatever, as he did last season, then fine. I don't think that's the problem. And I think most people, even who are sort of against him, would be like, fine, yeah, I'd be happy with that if that's what happened. But our experience with buying attackers out of the Premier League recently has been picking players from lower positioned teams, like from Everton and from Nottingham Forest, paying big bucks for them, and then putting them in our team and expecting them to take that next step up, or at least continue on the same level that they have been. But the thing is that, what's true with Solanke and what was true with Richarlison and what was true with Brennan Johnson is that people don't play those teams like they play against us. They just don't. It's a totally different ballpark because when we go on the road, or when we play at home especially, if we're playing against a Bournemouth, they don't get in and try and attack against us. They don't try and hold the ball. They just try and hit us on the counter. They sit way back and they try and shore up the defense.
Yeah.
So what we need, I suppose, if we had our choice of any striker in the world, is we need someone who's proven at scoring against teams that play like that. And the problem is that even Harry Kane struggled at times against Premier League opposition playing those hardcore defensive strategies. So that player is a very, very rare player. So who is that? I don't know. I'm not even sure that they truly exist at the moment. I mean, maybe like a Haaland or something, but I mean, obviously we're not buying it.
Yeah.
So, but
who's the solution to the low block, defensive team, nowadays? And it is, a lot of teams struggle against it, and eventually has just led to, I think, a lot of clubs just who are like us, they just constantly hit balls into the box, crosses into the penalty area.
And that's what,
and that's what we've become, and that's become the solution. It's not pretty. It's actually rather ugly, and you just hope that Solanke can be one of those guys that pounces on one of those rebounds or pounces on one of those deflections. I guess we need a poacher, really.
I would.
Yeah, and when those rare balls. Sorry, David. Continue.
No,
sorry, mate.
I was just going to say, I would add quickly, with Harry Kane, he was the creator and the finisher. I think that was the main problem against them teams, where I do think now with the likes of Romero, people like that, hopefully Son going back out the left, if Neto comes in here, there probably will actually be a lot more created for this striker, and he won't actually have to be the creator and finisher, Ribsy.
Yeah, and that would be ideal. And I wasn't trying to say that Harry Kane had flaws in his game. I was just saying it's tough, even for the very best,
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just saying, like with Harry Kane, he wouldn't have had as many creators around him as we do now. I think, so maybe, you might actually find a striker that will score goals in this system because the amount of, creativity coming from other areas and stuff like that to a large degree. As long as it's not Werner Johnson providing, the striker chances, we should be okay, for sure. What about Pedro Neto, Ribsy? I know you did put in the comments earlier on that you agreed with Shawnee Maddox, that you're not really a big fan of Pedro Neto coming in here.
Well, I mean, I like the player, and like so many players, I think that they could be useful to us, but he's just got that history of exactly what we've had the problem with over the last few seasons, which is where we do fairly well, and then we get a handful of injuries, and then we're not doing so well after that. So, well, especially the last season, that it happened to a lower extent earlier, but it's just I can just you can just see the writing on the wall. We bring him in, he plays great for us, and everyone goes, "What a great signing!" And then suddenly in November or something, he gets a 3-month injury or 4-month injury, and then we're just without him. We just got at that point we've got nothing. So I think picking someone with a history of less injury would be a more sensible use of money. As Sean said, I just sort of agreed with him, basically.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. You don't think that will change with Neto's injuries? The fact that Geoff Scott is gone now, that we've got, new medical in the team in there. You don't think it'll help Neto at all?
Do you think he's just in there in the injury room with a crowbar, just bashing their knees in whenever they're about to recover? I mean, I'm sure he wasn't hurting them, but yeah. Look, but as Eddie said in the chat earlier, and myself, I mean, as Australians, we have a friendly rivalry with the Kiwis. So when there's a chance to blame him for something going wrong, of course we're going to say it. We don't actually mean it though.
I don't blame him for the injuries, or he's not in there injuring them, but I wonder, was he up to speed with a lot of the modern processes and stuff that which can help you? I wonder, will Neto benefit from something like that? But let's wait and see on that one. Let's take this super chat here though, Ribsy from Rain Man. He says the biggest worry for me is that Levy seesaws between good then bad DOS. Arison to Kamoli, Baldini to Mitchell, Hitchin to Don Fabio to Lange. Let's expand on that. Do you think that the fact we're probably trying to pivot from Paratici to Lange is what the hold-up is, in this window in terms of incomings? Or do you think it is just down to the homegrown market? It's clear we're operating in it. It's just notoriously hard for us to operate in, and that's what's slowing it down. Do you blame Lange or the market we're in?
Oh, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because it's one of those positions where the fans can sort of judge the director of football, during their tenure or afterwards and compare them to other ones, but we don't really know what's going on within the club. I mean, I think it's a difficult position because if, they're not given the budget to get the players that they would actually buy if they had the ability to buy them, and they have to pick alternatives. People go, "Oh, they're getting these cheap players in." It's like, yeah, but I mean, I've got to work within the confines of my job at the time. So I guess, I'm just trying to be realistic about it. But it's obvious that I think that the best way to judge a director of football on transfers is well, there's two ways. Their ability to get players out of the club when they need to go, I think is a very difficult, a slow process that and sometimes it means relinquishing players for less than what they're worth, which is something that we've been doing recently, which I agree with. If they've got to go, they got to go. The other one is if they are restricted in the amount of money that they are, well, they're always restricted, but to a serious degree, then what they can bring in for low funds. And I think players like Bergvall is a pure example of, if you haven't got much money, but you can still find someone who has the potential to be a genuinely top-end Premier League player. I think that's pretty impressive. But that's also the scouting department's finding that, right? It's not really the director of football themselves. It's being identified by the scouts and then being shown to the director of football, and then the decisions being made from there. So it's a complex process, and it's probably not just the director of football's fault or their virtue if it's going well. So I don't know, man. It's such a complicated process. It's so difficult to just say, oh, this guy was good and this guy was bad. I think it's a bit more complex than that.
Yeah, look, I hear what you're saying. For me, Rain Man, it does seem to be a bit of a pattern for sure. You're absolutely spot on, where we get one that shit and then the next guy. Maybe it could be that guy was so shit, the next guy will always look good if he gets rid of them and brings in slightly better players. It could be that case. I mean, I would argue it was pretty hard for Paratici not to come in here and look good after the mess that Steve Hitchin made of a lot of it. But again, I think Daniel Levy he just pivots an awful lot, Frank Arneson, if I remember correctly, I don't think he was too good. Or was it? Who was the one that got Martin Yule sacked? Some prick got Martin Yule sacked. Anyway, Mitchell was brilliant. He got pissed off because the club wouldn't go after the players he was putting on the table, so they pivoted to Hitchin. I think Daniel Levy will pivot to whoever promises him what he can do at a certain price, and whatever the lowest price is on being able to rebuild stuff, I think Daniel Levy goes to be brutally honest. I do think that, like I said, that Lange is brought in here to operate in the homegrown market, and I do think that slows it down to a degree because of the way we operate business-wise and stuff like that. But Jack, what would you say to Rayman as well there, lad?
I was just saying in him to the chat, I think people have heard me say this in the past. Daniel Levy is one of the most dependent people on having a good director of football because we've all said he is clueless when it comes to getting players in himself. When he starts taking over the reins, Daniel Levy, we are very screwed often because he ends up price haggling, doesn't really know what players he wants or what sort of strategy to go after. He looks at it like an accountant would or like a businessman would. He doesn't look at it with any sort of footballing brain whatsoever. So he's actually very dependent on his director of football. I think I put it in the terms of the past of Levy is as good as his director of football. He starts to look like a good chairman the moment that he has a director of football. The moment that he doesn't have a good director of football, we start to be reminded again of all the annoying things that Levy continues to puts us through as a fan base. And this could be the case again with Johan Lange. What I appreciate that Rain Man has said, though, is, it's only been a short time he's been in charge. Time will tell. And another thing, too, is let's remind ourselves that when Paratici came through the door, there were lots of fans that were very upset with some of the signings that Paratici had made. Even the ones like Pop Matasar, right, were considered, kind of club, sort of cheap signings for the future and things like that, right? And Paratici was called a con more times than he was called a don. And Dave and I had to do some reputation defense on his behalf. And you could say that maybe something similar, if you're going to be hopeful and delusional like myself, you could say something similar could happen with Johan Lange, where maybe at the time, this all looks like really bad business, doesn't know what he's doing. Then all of a sudden, 2 years later, we're doing the same Don gifts and things like that we've done with Paratici. That's only me being hopeful. But I think Daniel Levy has always been as good as his director of football is. He's very dependent on having one.
And Rain Man, just lastly, let me know what you think on this. I think Jack actually hit the nail on the head there absolutely perfectly. Let me know what you think on this story, Rain Man. You could just put it in the comment section below. What was I going to say? I've lost it now. I'll speak it now in a second. Just quickly, Rain Man. I've completely lost what I was going to say to you, my man. No, I can't remember. We'll go back to Ribsy and I'll put it in the chat for you. I've lost my train of thought on that one, Rayman. Oh, I know I have it actually. Rayman, let me know your thoughts on this one, buddy. Is Johan Lange, I think, he's got a very difficult task to progress it from where it is now and where Paratici done it to the next level. So, he's going to be judged on that, basically. I think that's what we should be judging on. I think he's going to have a very hard job living up to that reputation. So, let's see what he can do. But I would argue his job is I think it's a lot harder to look good than what Paratici did coming into this football club, Rayman. So let me know your thoughts on that. But Ribsy, what else do you want to talk about, my man?
Oh, man, I don't know.
Let me ask you this then.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Postecoglou hasn't been back this transfer window. Do you think there could be a case where the board maybe aren't convinced of what they've seen off the back of last season, and that's a possibility why they've pulled the reins a little? Because there are a lot of fans that are unhappy and still question that to this day.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the evidence just yet that they have pulled the reins. We've got the evidence that they haven't bought anyone, but I mean, it doesn't seem to be from any lack of trying. So it's hard to say. It's possible that reading interviews with Ange, he's being quite diplomatic, but he's still making it very clear that he's expecting purchases to be made in this transfer window. Yeah. So that's why I don't really get when people say, "Oh, Ange is just Levy's puppet and he's just letting it, he's letting himself get walked over and stuff." I think just because he's not, an Italian guy who's like literally flipping out in every press conference, that doesn't mean that he's happy with what's happening. I don't think that anyone who spent much time listening to Ange talk and reading what he says would say that this guy is a pushover in any way, shape, or form. But he's also he's not, I wouldn't say he's reserved, but he is the kind of guy that will hold everything until it becomes clear that he's not being listened to. And then he'll make it very clear how unhappy he is about the situation. And I would expect that if there's not much movement now and without a proper plan in place to remedy the situation, if this window closes and he doesn't get what he's expecting, he will say exactly that. Whether that means he's going to resign or whether he's going to flip out or whatever, I don't know. I haven't really seen Ange in that sort of position before. But I would expect him to just say, look, promises were made and the club was unable to deliver on the promises. If he's happy with if he's happy with the effort that was made to do it, and if there's a clear explanation as to why the players that he wanted didn't come in, he may be happy with some sort of plan into the future and how that's going to work. But if it's just they just didn't want to front up what they said they were going to do, and they just didn't do it, and then they were like basically lying to him, I'm curious to see what will happen in that situation, because you'll see a very different kind of Ange if the club that's supposed to be his, that's, you know, supporting his team that he's building, decides not to do that. He might just walk, honestly, and he might do it in a very open way.
You said there you never seen Ange tested like that. I think, you know, for sure one thing Tottenham are going to guarantee is he's going to be tested like that. So we'll probably find something about Ange that we don't already know. But just quickly before we let you go, Ribsy, I sort of agree with this. You know, I agree with you. I don't agree with this whole Ange as a puppet. Like, what do you want the guy to do? I think, you know, it just comes down to a basic understanding of employee-employer relationship. You know, at the end of the day, you know, what you want him to do, what Antonio Conte done, but then most of the fans hounding him out after that, saying you can't do that and stuff. So, you know, I think there has to be an understanding. Whatever manager comes in, they're not a puppet, but they have to work with the chairman. You know, that's it at the end of the day. It's an employee-employer relationship. So I don't understand the puppet. I think it's nonsense. You know, he's not a fan of the club. It's not like me or, you know, someone else that's going to stand there and say, hang on, I think this is shit. I don't like this, that, and the other. Postecoglou ain't going to do that. You know, if he wants, he's got a dream job in the Premier League. There's going to be some understanding, and he's going to have to work with Daniel Levy. And if you don't understand that, I just think, you know, what are you doing? I think that's just basics, to be brutally honest with you. So
yeah, it's infantile. Yeah, it's and oftentimes, and sometimes when you get those comments, I have to remind myself sometimes that there are actual children who watch these things and talk on these things, and sometimes it's just like a 14-year-old who has no idea what's going on, and you know, then I read it and I go, what the hell's wrong with this person? And then I remember, oh, maybe it's just a kid, or you know, whatever. That's fine. It's no problem.
Yeah.
And then you realize you're just talking to Dave and I, and then you're like, oh gosh, you know. But now, Ribsy, class as always, and you know, we look forward to plenty more conversations with you in this season of transfer anxiety. It must be the 3rd or 4th year that you've been doing this with us at this point, if not longer.
Yeah. I'll be about, lads. I can't wait for the proper season to start and this window to bloody close, so we can talk about something more interesting than endless transfer speculation.
Hopefully next week we'll find out what your expectations are for the season on the fan show, providing we get a couple of signings. And by the way, you owe me a picture of that roast pulled pork.
Oh, you want to see that still? All right, no worries.
Yeah,
I actually do have some.
It's like,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, make sure you send it on. Make sure you do.
No, we'll do, man.
He doesn't want my smoked salmon picture, sadly, so he needs something better than that.
Yeah, no. Cheers, lads. Have a good one.
Have a good night, class act.
You have a good day, my man. Bye-bye. Absolutely love a bit of Ribsy, so I do. And do you know what? I think he talks a lot of sense. I love a bit of Ribsy, although he does owe me a picture of that pulled pork, by the way. And big up Dermot. Really appreciate you renewing your membership. Absolute legend. Really appreciate that. My man, he already knows all the stuff that comes with it. Then we've got Alexander Valoris. Says we need someone who'd start on all top 4 teams. Look, ideally, I do agree that's what we want, and we all want these signings. Just to caveat that, though, I would say a lot of the signings we've made, if clubs were looking for signings now, like Van de Ven Romero, they'd walk into a top 4 team. But before we sign them, you would have argued they wouldn't. So I do think, you know, there has to be a bit of trust within some of the scouting that we have done previously. Udogie, Van de Ven, Romero, you know, Papa Matasar's come good in that midfield. I do think there has to be a bit of a trade-off. Not every signing is going to be one that comes in as a top 4 or would walk into every top 4 team. But what I would say is there is certain positions you should be signing them players for. And I think up front is one of them where I don't think you can take that gamble. I do think you should be signing a player of a certain caliber because the importance of it. Alexander, Valorous, Jack, anything you want to add to that?
Just technically, even look at, I don't like using Arsenal as ever a comparison, but you even look at Arsenal, right? Like if the fans were in charge, they absolutely would have never had Eddie Nketiah and Havertz as their two strikers. That's technically what Mikel Arteta apparently wanted. He wanted Havertz as well as Eddie Nketiah as his two choices up top for him. And I think the majority of fan bases would say that they are not top 4 quality strikers. Yet that's what Mikel Arteta seemed to have wanted, and he did quite well with it, sadly. I wish he did worse with them, but he did all right with them. And something could be happening with Solanke here that's similar.
But then again, I think Arsenal fans, they've had Henry, they've had Bergkamp, they know the value of a striker. It does
Absolutely
deliver trophies.
That's what Mikel wanted, and he's done pretty well with it.
Yeah, he's done well with it, but they haven't won trophies, which is probably a blessing in disguise. So we do want them to continue with Nketiah. That'll be brilliant. And then Dermot says, and then we'll bring on the last guest of the evening, which is Eugene, who's been very patient. So apologies on that, Eugene, that we took so long to get to you, my man. But Dermot says, to be honest, we can blame everyone we like, but at the end of the day, it's down to clubs, and transfer window is quiet. Clubs don't have the money to spend. Come on, you Spurs. I agree with it to a certain degree. You look at Man United, they've already got a deal for the lit ready to go and sanction if they want it. Jonathan Xerxes in there. They've already got Euro. West Ham have already to sign Somerville and full crew the other day. So I disagree with that slightly. I think that would have been the case a few weeks ago, but we are seeing clubs starting to ramp up in their transfer business, and we're still sort of pulling teeth a little bit. So I disagree with that slightly. And 2 weeks out from the season, I'll be brutally honest with you, Dermot. I don't care if other clubs are slow. I care about what our club are doing, what my ambition is, and I want them to act accordingly. So regardless whether clubs are acting slow or not, we should be looking out. And you're the first proponent to say this. We should care about what we're doing and nobody else. So I think you would agree with that, Dermotron. And as for the money, clubs don't have money to spend, but we do. So let's get on with it. This should be our market to thrive in, if anything, to be brutally honest with you, Dermot. This is what Daniel Levy's been waiting for. This is what's given him a hard on, and it's just gone completely floppy. So, on that one, Dermot, but pick yourself up, my man, and really appreciate the support, brother. Let us know if you disagree or not in the comment section below. And as always, great to see Nico in here as well. Guys, we're down to the last guest of the evening, and then your boy's going to have some dinner. So let's hear what the one and only Eugene has to say. First of all, Eugene, apologies for taking so long to get you. I am dawdling in today, so apologize, but thank you for your patience, my man. How are you keeping?
Hey, good. What's up, guys? Sorry, I just snuck in. I didn't know the rules, but,
No.
It's anarchy over here, Eugene. Don't apologize.
Yeah, you guys are falling asleep. I know, Dave, you're barely awake. Jack, I know it's time for lunch, dinner, whatever, so we'll keep it short.
No, man. You're very, very kind. You're being too humble.
Yeah.
You're being too humble. Eugene, it's DOMINIC SOLANKE. That's what you have to talk about today, and then we'll get on to some of the other business. How do you feel about the big Dom?
I mean, I've gone through multiple emotions initially.
Yeah.
Underwhelmed. But now that I think about it, look, the Spanish kid that Chelsea wants is going for 40 million, right? Arsenal is quoting Eddie Nketiah 30 million. So the prices are so crazy right now. I don't think we should look at the prices, right? Initially, I wanted Tony, but something is up. All the clubs who needed a 9 for some reason backed off. I don't know what's going on with him, but seems like there are some red flags with Tony. But he was my first choice, right? As I told you, Jack, I'm not a Ricci guy. We need a striker who can hold the ball up, link up play, right? Ricci is just too wasteful. It doesn't matter for me how many goals he scores. It's how many goals or chances he misses. He's like a poor man's Darwin Nunez. So,
Took the words out of my mouth.
They do a lot of good things, but honestly, a striker is paid to score. And if they miss so many chances, especially the way Ange plays, we cannot afford to miss all those chances with us being open on defense. So we need somebody who's more clinical. So Tony's not going to happen for some reason, which is unfortunate. And then looking at all the other strikers from Europe, and I think I posted in the chat earlier, in the past 7 years, I cannot name outside of City strikers, 5 good strikers that came out of Europe that banged, right? We have Jansson, Soldado, Hoyland, Nunez. I'm not sure who actually came from Europe and succeeded. 19 goals in the Prem is not a joke. I don't think anybody can score 19 goals by accident, right? So whether Solanke is a one-season wonder or not, I would take 19 goals in the Prem than 25 goals in Holland or in Portugal. So from that perspective, I don't think it would be a bad signing. It's just not what I was hoping for initially. But
I haven't heard that point made, actually, and that's an
we'll
interesting
see.
point you make there on kind of, European striker kind of goal rates versus a Premier League one. Like, it's the hardest league to score in.
Some people want Jimenez. I've seen him play in Copa. He's terrible for Mexico. He hasn't scored. And Parrott is begging in that league. So, anybody from that league, I'm not sure I want. Gyökeres, same thing. Super talented, looks great. But again, he's a one-season wonder or a 2-season wonder in that league. Even though he looks great, it's still a risk. I'd rather get 19 goals than hope for something more. And with the track record that we have, I'm not confident. My biggest issue is, I've been told last year that Don Fabio, he's working on all these deals at the same time, spinning all these plates, which is great. But if that's the case, why are we again at the end of the window with nobody to sign, right? Solanke obviously wasn't our first choice. But if he was at least plan B or C, there is no reason for us right now to only be starting the talks with him, right? That should have been already in the bag before. That's my issue.
Let me ask you this. Do you think Don Fabio is in charge in this window? Because, look, I'll make the point, right? When we have had Paratici, you have seen us act early in the window when there was no other director of football at the club. And it was clear it was him in control making all these decisions. But it seems like now they've brought in Johan Lang as the director of football. And it looks like, from me, that he has more of a hands-on in this window than maybe what Paratici has had in future. So I'm actually more blaming Johan Lang for this window rather than actually Paratici, to be brutally honest with you. I'm actually worried that there might be a bit of a power struggle between the two at some point.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues for the anxiety from the fan base. We have Scott Mann, Don Fabio, Lange, and I think I mentioned it before on other channels, but it would be great if somebody from the club, Mann, Levy, or Lange, would talk to the fans and saying, here's what our structure is like. Yeah. These are the people responsible for A, B, C, and D, and this is what our plan is for the next 2 years, right? Whether it's youth movement or any other movement, or this is what we're trying to achieve, and these are the people responsible. Because right now, we have no idea. Fabio, Lange, I have no idea what Mann is getting paid for. So, and Ange is the only person who's out there, and he's taking all the blame just because he's the only one talking, right? Which is, to me, is unacceptable. I'm not sure if it's a British football thing, or I don't know why there's so much silence from the club. But I think if somebody would speak to the fans, a lot of anxiety from the fans' perspective would get,
I completely agree with you. I think it's one problem where the club really lack is their communication with the fans. And that's one thing that pisses fans off. We're always sort of left trying to read between the lines rather than actually come out and say, guys, this is the plan going forward. And the thing is, they don't have to sit there and outlay the transfers that they want to make. They just simply got to say, look, we want to incorporate the youth. We want to build a team that's going to be together for the next 5-6 years and hopefully go and win something. Then fans can get behind it. But right now, fans don't really know what to get behind because they don't really know what the plan is. You're seeing certain things happen, and then you're seeing journalists say certain things, and that's what we're all going off. But I do agree with you. Communication is absolutely key with the fans. You look at Aston Villa when they went to sell Jack Grealish. They clearly communicated why they were selling them and what they were going to do with that money to help move them forward. And they've done that. When we sold Harry Kane, we didn't get any communication off the club, on what they were going to use that money forward going for. You're absolutely spot on, Eugene. I think you raise an absolute great point there. I think I really think you do. And that's one thing that pisses me off is the communication.
And one point, Dave, on Lange, I have no idea. I mean, he has a good track record at Villa, but there's a difference signing decent, good players for Villa and signing top players that we need to bridge that gap with Arsenal and City. So I think I wouldn't say it's much easier, but I do feel like it's easier to be under the radar at Villa, signing good players, than being in the spotlight for the Spurs looking for top talent.
Yeah, I agree.
So whether he succeeds or not, I'm not sure, but so far I'm really stressed. I really had high hopes for this window. I was like, you know what, Ange, it's the last chance, right? Either you back him or we have no hope, right? And I felt like Levy changed, he's going to step back with the system in place, the structure. We're going to back Ange and see where this project goes. But right now, I'm just stressed. It just looks like we're doing our usual business, which I'm not happy about.
Yeah, fair points. Again, in Johan Lange, maybe the CV and the resume just isn't suited for what he actually is responsible for doing here at Spurs, which is, like you say, bringing in those bigger signings. Do you have any thoughts on Pedro Neto, though, Eugene?
He's a great talent. I mean, if we were United or Chelsea, just bring him in, take a chance. If it doesn't work out, buy somebody else, right? Like Anthony or other people. But with us, if we mess up on a $60 million or pound signing, it's going to be a big issue. It's going to take us a decade to find a replacement. So, so from that perspective, maybe I would rather take a chance on Chiesa for 25 million, even though it's also an injury risk there, but at least it's cheaper. But honestly, even though I love the talent, knowing how we do business and our track record of keeping players fit, I wouldn't take that chance.
Very fair point. Again, very fair point with Chiesa and also their injury risks, both of them. And you don't want the £60 million signing to be an injury worry. It just seems that's where a lot of people's big concerns are. Dave, did you have a final question for Eugene?
No, I just want to agree with Eugene, and like he's spot on. How long it takes us to get them off the books, and we won't make another one until they're gone. Look at the case of Ndombele. Even Sadado at the time was a huge signing when we signed him. And it didn't work out, and we're just left with these guys, and we don't really look to make too much improvements or as big as improvements as we should, because we're left reeling that we got stung for 60 million rather than, okay, it didn't work out. Get him gone, bring the next guy on. I think you're absolutely spot on. Where are you from, Eugene? I'm trying to work out where the accent is.
Oh, I'm from the States, from California, but my accent, I'm from the former Soviet Union, from Ukraine, but I'm in California right now. So
very cool. Very cool.
So,
Well, you're absolutely great. Hopefully this isn't the last time we get to speak to you, my man. Hopefully we see plenty more.
It's great talking to you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
No, thanks for waiting patiently. Thanks for following the link. Thanks for being eager to come on. Like all those things, really. And you absolutely smashed it. I don't know if you saw the chat, but lots of people really liked what you had to say. So we would love to have you back, man.
Big up, everyone. Thanks a lot, guys.
Lastly, just before we let you go, it's one question I've asked everyone. I hear your point on it. The club, no TIFO allowed for the North London Derby. What's your thoughts?
I mean, unfortunately, I'm not there. But I don't know. I'm not sure what the reasons are, if they gave any reasons for it.
I haven't seen any reasons for it yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely unfortunate. So if I'd be there, I wouldn't be happy. But I can't say much given that, I'm in the States and I'm not there. So that would be unfair on my part to speak for the fans who actually attend the games. But yeah.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't know much about that situation, unfortunately. So...
No, that's fair. That's fair. Well, Eugene, I think you've been absolutely fantastic this evening. Thank you very much for coming on, my man. And I appreciate, again, you waiting to come on and have your say as well. It means a lot, man.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good night, sir.
A lot more of you around here. Big up, Eugene.
Class. Very class. Very good call.
Man. Absolutely love that when you get a new guest and they absolutely smash it. Everybody big up Eugene. Yeah, we're all in the Eugene army after that one. Big him up. A lot of people really liked what he had to say, guys. So fair play to everything. And you know what? I actually found it hard to disagree with a lot of what he says. I think, he's
Unique
absolutely
points.
brilliant. And he was very, very balanced on DOMINIC SOLANKE. I don't know how he done it. He done it better than me. He was able to say he doesn't like the signing, but, he also brought the pros to it. So fair play to him on that one. But big up, Eugene. We're all a member of the Eugene army now. Great calling, Eugene. Absolutely love it. How rude of me, actually. I should have asked, did he have his channel? Does he have a channel before I ended off? If you do, my man, just let us know and I'll plug it for you going forward, my man. I don't know whether you do or not. Just if you do, just let us know.
I liked his Spurs hat too. I wonder if Lazy 8 in the chat might have been jealous of his Spurs cap, by the way. I'm pretty sure he might not have that one. Nick, I haven't seen him rock that one. I liked that a lot. It's a great call from Eugene. I hope to hear from him again. I really do.
Yeah, big up, Eugene. But guys, unfortunately, we would love to go all evening, but this does bring an end to the fan show. I hope you guys enjoyed it today. Tomorrow, there will be a video coming out on why I think Tony should be Tottenham striker and why Jack thinks DOMINIC SOLANKE should be Tottenham striker. So make sure you tune in for that and give us your thoughts in the comment section below. Apart from that, there will be no live show tomorrow, because like we said, we're going to try and get a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff done and the final preps for the upcoming season, for all the content that we want to produce for you guys, but also for you guys to also take part in as well. So hopefully you can forgive us for that no live stream. If something drastic happens, we might change course of plan, but as it is now, there will be no live stream tomorrow. We're going to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Lastly, I want to say thank you to everybody who took the time out to come on today. Every single one of you who took the time out to watch the show and listen to every single guest as we've gone on. The numbers have been absolutely insane today. And then lastly, to the people who have gone the extra mile today, Moondog, Sava from Football Heritage TV, Paul Markey, Chunky Cheeks, Artist T, Keith Edwards, SOF, Moss Chops, Drew Zilla, Eugene, Jacob Bannister, Ross Pearlstone, Kieran, Jerome, and Rainman, along with Dermotron and Alexander as well. Guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate everyone who has gone the extra mile above and beyond. As we say, none of us are backed by big wigs. It really does go a long way in helping us improve and also hopefully bring a lot better things your way, guys. So really appreciate that. And lastly, go off and enjoy your evening.
Yeah.
Do not stress. I get it. We're all upset about Tottenham and the transfer window so far. But look, there's nothing you can do between the next few hours tonight. So just enjoy your evening and we'll regather all them conversations tomorrow. Jack, anything you want to say before we end up, my man?
I echo what you just said there. At the end of the day, guys, we're the only ones we can stress about it. We can talk about it. We can share our opinions, but we're not the ones pulling the strings. We're not, fans at the end of the day cannot push the buttons for the transfers to happen and that type of thing. So if you're able to, go off, enjoy your evenings, have a pork roast like Dave wants to, go on a run, go on a walk with the dog, or, have a nice evening with the missus or with a friend of yours, and take your mind off of this Spurs anxiety, which definitely seems to happen around this time of year. It's natural. I think I've gone through it for around 3 or 4 years now with Dave, and it's just part of the deal. It's part of the plan.
13th stage of grieving as a Tottenham fan.
we'll probably come out of it, not in one piece, maybe in 2 pieces, but hopefully we're not completely shattered by the end of this whole transfer window. But really appreciate all the support today. And thanks for making the fan shows very special. It's also down to the guests. The guests absolutely smashed it today. And it's thanks to you guys. So really appreciate you all.
Absolute legends. Well, guys, make sure you check out the video dropping your way in the morning.
Yep.
As always, give us your thoughts in the comments below. We are very good lately at getting to nearly every single comment because we appreciate it. So please do that. Your opinions do not go unheard. Guys, enjoy your evening. That's all we've got. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on,
in
you
the
Spurs.
mighty Ange, I still trust. I love the guy. And we never stop. In fact, we're about to get going. Come on.
Come on. See you, everyone. We never stop.